This is Caitlin, your host of the No Sleep for Dramas podcast, where we get no sleep and survive on coffee to watch just one more episode at night. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the No Sleep for Dramas podcast. We are here for a K-drama review today. You have heard me talk about this K-drama all over the place on my own podcast, social media, as well as other people's podcasts. But I do have a guest here who has never seen this K-drama, and she's here to talk with me about it and review it. And of course, the K-drama, as you can tell from the title, is Flower of Evil. And Nas is on the show today from Swoon Diaries, and she has never seen this K-drama, so I'm very excited to talk about this with her. How are you, Nas?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to talk about this drama with you. I can't wait.
Great. Me too. Me too. So we have a couple questions for you, and then we'll dive in. So as always, what are you currently watching other than Flower of Evil, of course?
Yes, so I've definitely been fully immersed in Flower of Evil for the last few weeks, but I'm also watching Tastefully Yours on Netflix, and I also plan on checking out some of the other May dramas that came out that I wasn't able to check out because I was like all in with Flower of Evil. I was like, let me just watch this so I can watch everything else as it comes out. But
Right.
yeah, Tastefully Yours is the only ongoing drama I'm watching right now, which I like. It's
Nice.
cute and very funny. Like has me cackling. So
I've heard that. Yeah, there's one, it's like Second Chance at Love or Second
Second
Something
Shot
at
at
Love.
Love, that's another one I wanted
Yeah.
to watch.
The male lead of that is gonna have quite a year this year.
Yeah, this is already a second drama.
And then Mercy for None is coming out in June, and he's in that as well. From the posters, it looks like he's a villain, which is I've never seen him play a villain, so I'm excited for that. But I don't know if that's the case. And then I think he has like another one that's going to come out or did come out. Maybe he's like already, I don't know. He's
Wow.
everywhere in the next 2 months, basically.
He's booked and busy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because the first time I
Yeah.
ever saw him was Way Back Love, which I still haven't finished, but he's just been going like every month. He's in something.
Yeah. And he is, oh my God, I'm not going to remember his brother's name.
Is it
NCT member.
Do Young? Is it Do
Do
Young?
Young, yes. He's
Yes,
Do
when I
Young's
heard
brother.
that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool."
Yes. They have you ever seen the reality show like where they show people's houses? I can't remember. I Live Alone, I think is what it's
Yes,
called.
I have.
So Do Young's been on that show multiple times. I don't remember if his brother has, but Do Young's been on it. And so his brother's been on it because his brother just comes to his house all the time. Or he goes to his house. Like yeah, it's funny. So I didn't realize they were brothers until I saw them on I Live Alone. And I'm like, oh, you're brothers. Same with the girl from Twice. Her sister's an actress. And
Really?
yeah, pretty well known. And I can't remember either one of those names off of my top of my head, but a member of Twice, her sister's an actor, and it's the same thing.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I think hold on, let me check
Okay.
because I want to say it's Jungyeon's sister. Yeah, so Jungyeon is the member
Mhm.
of Twice.
Mhm.
Her sister is Gong Seung-yoon.
Okay, I've seen this girl. I've seen her in, like, posters, like, I think the one for, like, Flower Crew. Is she in Flower
Yes,
Crew? Okay,
I think
okay.
she was in Flower Crew. Yeah, yeah.
That's so cool. Who would have thought?
I know, but that was also one that I was, like, really surprised because I was like, I don't know. You always see where the siblings are in the same thing. Either they're
Right.
both idols or they're both actors and
Right,
you never
exactly.
really see the crossover.
Exactly. That's a good point.
Anyway,
Fun facts, I love it.
fun fact, that's not what we're here to talk about. Anyway, yeah, I have not been watching, like, any airing stuff for months.
Yeah. I remember you like, when you posted your update, you're like, "I'm not watching anything." And I was like, and that's been me too, like, I've been really struggling with ongoing dramas just because of a lack of time, and
Yeah,
yeah, so I'm just like, "You
yeah,
know what? If it's meant to be, like, I'll get to it." And, like, the ones that I've watched ongoing this year, they were all, like, 1000% worth it to, like, watch and finish in real
right.
time. So and the ones I haven't been able to keep up with, I'm like, "You know what? I actually didn't miss anything, so it's fine." Oh, yeah. It's hard being an adult trying to juggle all these things.
Right, yeah, and it's also, like, doing the podcast too, it's like you obviously have to prioritize what
Yes.
you need to watch for whatever podcast you're recording for, so,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, so, I'm hoping in June I can watch some because like, I'm still watching Buried Hearts. I should have been done with that months ago, and just due to time and prioritizing other dramas, I still have 6 episodes of that to go. I'm hopefully finishing that next week, but it's just like
That's so funny. Are you
yeah.
liking it?
I still like it, it's why I
Yeah.
haven't dropped it. I also really haven't been spoiled on the ending, other
Well,
than the
that's
people
amazing.
either did not like it or liked it. Like,
Right.
I don't know why people didn't like it if they didn't like it.
Okay.
So,
Okay, that's good you haven't been spoiled.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I could probably predict a couple things that probably is gonna happen, but, like, overall, I still like it.
Yeah.
So that's why I primarily haven't dropped it, is because I haven't hit the point where I don't like it.
You're still trucking along, you know?
I'm really excited for Mercy for None. That's probably the biggest one in June because I haven't watched season 2 of Squid Game yet, so I I can't really
Oh
be
my
excited for season
gosh!
3.
You have time still!
I know. I need to watch it. I really do. I do plan to watch both seasons. I'm thinking at this point I'm just gonna wait until season three's out, and then I'm just gonna watch
Yeah.
both seasons.
That's wise because see, the way season 2 ends, it's kinda like, you would probably just wanna, like, go right into 3 because
Right. Yeah.
I watched it and I'm like, What happened?" Like, at the end, I was like, "Wait, we're not done?" So,
I
yeah.
heard they filmed I could be wrong on this, but I thought I heard that they filmed both of the seasons together, like, as one
Yes.
long K-drama, and then they just split it out at some random time they
Mhm.
felt like they could. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
So,
exactly what happened. Yeah, they finished the whole
okay.
show in one filming, but for some reason, they
Yeah.
decided to split into 2 seasons, which annoying, but yeah, that's what
Yeah.
Netflix does now.
Yeah. Apparently so. But apparently they're done after season 3. Well, at least the writer said he's done. He's like, "I
Yeah.
can't do this anymore."
Right.
He's like, "I can't write this anymore. I lost teeth writing this stuff."
Blame him. It's a lot, and I commend him even
Yeah,
for being able to extend the story from what it was because he didn't even plan
right.
on having multiple seasons of the show, but the way it just took off, he was like, "Okay," and, like, he created, like, a really good story from that
Mhm.
first season, so,
Right,
yeah,
right.
really good.
Yeah. Well, that's not what we're here to talk about, but anyway.
Yes.
Also, quickly, because I know you're a fellow K-pop listener, like, are you
Yes.
addicted to any new songs or anything? I'm still on my
This
GOT7 era. Literally, I'm still listening to that album.
that album is so good. I've been loving Baekhyun's new songs.
Mm. Ok
I think it's called Elevator. And then 17, I love 17. They're one of my old groups. I don't know how I
Yep,
feel
yep.
about the comeback, but I have been listening to it, trying to figure out how I feel. So that's where I am with that.
I liked that. I don't think I've listened to it enough to make a final decision on it, but I definitely
Yeah.
was in the ballpark of liking it. You know what
Mhm.
other one has kind of, like, is an earworm, and I still don't know if I really like it, but I can't really avoid it at this point?
Oh
"Gnarly" by Cat's Eye. I hated that song when it came out,
my gosh.
hated it,
Can,
and it's
can I
everywhere, and I
can I
can't
tell you a
avoid it.
story? So the Studio Tune performance came out, right? And I don't know, I mean, like, I know Touch, of course. But other
Yeah,
than that,
right.
I really don't know much about Cat's Eye. But I was like, oh, they have a new song. And like I watched the Studio Tune performance. When I tell you my mouth fell on the ground by like how I was like, I don't think I've heard a worse like as far as
Yeah,
like, K-pop lyrics can be very interesting. I don't think I've heard worse K-pop
yeah.
lyrics. Like I was stunned at how
The
bad it was.
minute the song said Tesla, I'm like, "Nope, we're done.
Right. I was like,
We're done."
"What's happening here?" And like fried chicken, I was like,
Yes.
what are we doing?" Like I was so confused. It was like word salads. I was so lost.
Yeah,
Like, of course, the beat, the dancing, the performance is like really good, but like the
right.
lyrics, I was
The lyrics is
stunned
not
by
good.
just how nonsensical it was.
Right, yeah, and yet, it's everywhere, and I pretty much
Yes.
watch every video it's on because I don't know what it is. I still hate the song, but for
Yeah.
some reason, I've watched every live performance of that song. I don't know why.
It's funny
Yeah,
because
I
like, the
don't know.
comments on YouTube are like, only they could, like, save a song that's this bad because it was
Yes.
just it's,
Yes.
like, genuinely bad. But I've also been listening to a lot of Stray Kids because I'm trying to get ready for the concert
Yeah,
in
yeah,
a few
yeah.
weeks. So, I'm, like, getting back into my Stray Kids playlist so I can, like, be ready, so I'm
Nice,
excited for
nice.
that.
I'm trying to think of anything else I'm listening to other than Got7. I really am not. I'm listening to a lot of podcasts. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Is
same. I've been doing, like, a lot of
I know.
audiobooks and stuff, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm on to Got7. And I like the 17. I like listen to everything that comes out.
Yeah.
I also am not like this is an admission that I don't want to admit, but I'm still gonna admit I haven't exercised at all this year, which is where I listen to a lot of my music.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
so if I'm not exercising, I don't listen to music, let alone podcasts. I'm really behind on podcasts as well because of that same reason.
Yeah.
So I just don't think I'm really in the trenches with K-pop as I usually am because
Yeah.
I just don't listen to the music as often as I usually do.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point because again, I do most of my K-pop listening at the gym. So I
Yeah,
totally get
yeah.
that.
Anyway, let's move on and talk about Flower Review. So, I have one question before we dive in. Why did you
Yes.
suggest reviewing this for the podcast? Because as I explained on another one of my podcast episodes, when I approached you guys to be my host, I asked, or I basically told you, I didn't ask, I told you to use me as an excuse to watch dramas you normally would not watch, or
Yes.
you have wanted to watch and you just never got around to watching them,
Yeah.
specifically crime ones, but basically at any point. So why did you pick Flower of Evil?
Yeah, I've always wanted to watch this drama, and like you said, I really just need an excuse to watch it because if it was just up to me, it just would have stayed collecting dust on my never-ending K-drama watch list. And I was like, if we like schedule a review for it, I can finally watch it because I've heard nothing but good things about it. And
Mhm.
I don't think I haven't watched a crime drama either. So I was like, I really like want to get into this genre. So I was like, I think this will be the perfect opportunity since like it's your favorite genre. So I was like, let's do this one.
So you have never watched a crime drama? I thought you've watched one before.
No, never.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is a good intro to your crime drama. Nice. Okay,
This was a great
cool.
intro.
Yeah, yeah. All right, we are going to get into this review. As people may know or not know, my format of my reviews is I will introduce Flower of Evil. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the synopsis and we'll talk about the cast, and then we will say our non-spoiler overall rating and thoughts. And then I'll give a spoiler warning and then we'll do a deep dive into the drama. So that's the format. So we're going to intro Flower of Evil for people who may not know what this Korean drama is. It is a Korean drama that aired July 29th, 2020 to September 23rd, 2020, 16 episodes long. The synopsis, which I pulled right from MDL, is I always butcher his name. Bak Hyung Sung is hiding a dark secret surrounding his true identity. He has established a happy family life and successful career. He is a loving husband and a doting father to his young daughter, but his perfect facade begins to crumble when his wife, Cha Ji-won, a homicide detective, begins investigating a string of serial murders from 15 years ago. Ji-won notices changes in her husband's behavior and begins to wonder if he could possibly be hiding something from her. So, this was directed by two directors. One is Kim Chul-gu, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. He directed Celebrity, Chicago Typewriter, and Mother. And then the other director is Yoo Jung-ho, who directed Lovely Runner from last year, and My Hollow Love. Have you seen any of these dramas, Naz?
Yes, I have seen Lovely Runner as well as My Holo Love. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I really enjoy Lovely Runner. It was very cute, very nice drama. And My Holo Love, strange. For what it is, I enjoyed it. Like, it's not the best drama in the world, but I liked it for what it was. I watched it. It was one of, like, I think within the first maybe 5 dramas I watched. So it's very early days. but I enjoyed it for the most part.
Nice, nice. Yeah, the other director who did Chicago Typewriter and Mother, they're like classic Korean dramas.
Yes. I need to watch Mother. I've heard it's so good, and Chicago Typewriter.
Yeah. Get get your tissues ready for Chicago Typewriter. I haven't actually watched that drama all the way through because I've
Mm.
seen all of the sad parts on social media, and I'm like, I have to be ready to cry with this. But it supposedly is a fantastic drama. All right, screenwriter is Yoo Jung-hee. I don't remember if it was a man or a woman, but anyway, they haven't done anything since Flower of Evil, but before Flower of Evil, they mainly were doing like drama specials, that come out every year. That's like an episode, maybe
Right.
2 episodes, and they just do like an hour long story in that. So they had consistently been doing drama specials for like 5 years before Flower of Evil, and then they haven't done anything since,
That's so interesting.
or at least according to MDL.
Yeah.
All right, so the main cast, MDL has 4 people as main roles. We have Lee Joon-gi, who of course starred in Flower of Evil, as we are talking about, Lawless Lawyer, and Moon Lover Scarlet Heart Rio. Then Cha Ji-won, his wife, is played by Moon Chae-won. She was in Good Doctor, The Innocent Man, Mama Fairy and the Woodcutter, and Payback, Money and Power. And then another role is played by Jang Hee-jin, who I'm gonna butcher this name because I always mispronounce it, who stars or support stars in Jung Young the Star is Born, The Red Sleeve, and On the Way to the Airport. And lastly, a main role is played by Seo Hyun Woo, who was in A Shop for Killers, Celebrity, and The Lies Within, just to name a few of their dramas. Do you have any comments on any of these people?
Yeah, so my first Lee Joon-gi drama was Moon Lovers, which I
Mhm.
watched quite recently as well, which I loved. It's kooky, but I loved it. And, this is my first Moon Chae-won drama. I think I have Mama Fairy and the Woodcutter on my Viki watch list.
If you like
So yeah.
kooky, you'll like that.
Okay.
It's kooky. It's kooky. It's different.
But yeah. But yeah, Lee Joon-gi, I'm such a fan. Like, ever since Moon Lovers, I'm like, "Give me more." Like, I wanna watch all his dramas. I think he's such a good actor. And yeah, in Moon Lovers, he was so good, and, like, that show was, like, so dramatic and just has so much going on, and I feel like he did such a great job, like, he really shined, but yeah.
Right.
Yep,
Yeah.
love that guy.
Seo Woo has a very memorable role in The Shop for Killers. Have you
Hmm.
seen Shop for Killers?
I've seen, like, the first, like, 2 episodes, and then I got distracted.
Okay, do you remember his role in Shop for Killers? He was the one in the van in the episode 1 who was doing the long shot.
That was
Yeah,
him?
that was him.
I was wondering why he looked familiar, and I was like, "I don't think I've
Yeah,
seen this guy before," but I was like,
yeah.
apparently I have. Okay, okay."
Yeah, I still remember his reaction, and this is gonna be spoiler, so if you guys have not seen Shop for Killers, but his reaction to when the niece, the main girl,
Mhm,
I think is the one doing it. It's either the main girl or the girl that's helping her, the woman that's helping her, pulls
mhm.
out the long rifle out of the couch and, like, shoots him back, and he's like, "You MFer," or whatever he said. He was like,
I remember that, I remember
"Clever,"
that.
or something like that. I love that reaction. He was great, yeah. He has a support role in it. I don't think it's a main role, but he's memorable support role in that.
Yes.
He is great in I mean, I've only seen him in crime stuff. He's very
Mhm.
but I know he has done support role for many, many, many dramas. So,
Oh.
yeah. All right, moving on. Speaking of support roles, we had a lot of support roles. So I'm just going to talk about some of them. I'm not going to talk about all of them because there's a lot of talk more of the more prominent support roles. So we had um Lee Joon-gin's mom is played by Nam Gi-ye. We might remember her from Hyde or My Dearest or Celebrity. His father is played by Sun Jung-hak, who you might know from Curtain Call, Pong, the Joseon Psychiatrist, or The King's Affection. Let's see. Moon Chae-won's mom is played by Jo Kyung-suk, who was in Blind, Graceful Family, and A Poem a Day. Our main couple's daughter was played by Jung Sung Yoon. She was also in The Escape of the Seven, and then she's done like a lot of weekend dramas playing the child actor in that. So she was in Iron Family, which just recently ended a couple months ago, and then she was also in The Real Has Come, which was last year. And then we have Choi Dae-hoon, who you might recently remember from When Life Gives You Tangerines. He was also in Captivating the King and Melancholia. Choi Young-joon plays a cop. He was also in The Trunk from this year, Gung Sung Creature, and Bloodhounds. And then some more cops was played by Kim Suo. He was in School 2017, had a guest role in Lovely Runner and Celebrity. And then lastly, another cop that we prominently see. A lot of the males in this were cops, just FYI. He was played by Chul Hyung, who was in Karma, Undercover High School, and Kairos. I'm also just going to name um, one other person that I forgot to write down because I want to name Ijunski's other father.
Yes, 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 that's important.
Ijungi's other father, which we'll explain in the spoiler section, was played by where is he? Of course, now I'm not going to be able to find him very easily. His other father was played by Choi Byung Mo, which we'll explain later.
Yes.
And then you also have Kim Ji Hoon in this. You have Han Soo Yeon. I mean, you have a lot. You have Im Na Young, who you might know. You have Young Hae Jin, who she has been in a lot of things. So you will recognize at least one person from this cast. It's stacked. Moving on. Overall review. I'm going to ask you to go first, like pretty much any time, because you have never seen this. So, what is your overall non spoiler review of Flower of Evil?
Absolutely loved this show. I don't think I've been at the edge of my seat like this for any drama I've seen. And I guess because it's like my first real crime drama, but the twists and the turns were excellent. They were so good. I couldn't predict anything. Like usually when I'm watching a show, I'm able to kind of predict, okay, this person did it. This is how they did it. This is who they worked with. Like you can kind of figure it out. Almost every theory I had up until like the midway point when you can kind of be like, okay, like I understand what's happening here. But before then, I was like, I don't know who's involved. I don't know how they're involved. If it's not him, I don't know who else it could be. Like I mean, just shocked from
Hmm.
beginning to end. Like every twist and turn, it was just so satisfying. I thought the acting was excellent. I think that even though it's a crime drama, it's also a romance because we have this like really beautiful husband-wife relationship that I think was portrayed really well because obviously things get really complicated because she's suspecting her husband and becoming weary. And I think that they played that so well. And I also loved like the addition of the daughter and just like their family unit. It was just so beautiful. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. It was a great show.
Nice. So, out of 10, like, what would you rate it?
I would give it a 9.5.
Nice. I did the same.
Yes. Yes, yes. There's literally one thing I'm sure we'll talk about later that I was like, "No, absolutely not." But, if that didn't happen, it would have been a perfect 10. It would
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
still, 9.5 out of 10 is like, what's the difference? But excellent
Right.
drama. I
Right.
would recommend it to literally everybody. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I pretty much agree with her review. Like, this is now my fourth or fifth time rewatching this. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So I've reviewed this on the K3 podcast, and
Yes.
I've reviewed this on
Yeah,
somebody
you
else's.
reviewed it with Jess because I actually listened to the episode up until, like,
Yes.
the end because I didn't wanna hear, like, the spoilers, so I stopped, like, at the halfway mark. But, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember the Jess review as well.
Yeah. So, and then I rewatched this, I think, another time because I wanted to. I don't know. I've rewatched this multiple, multiple times. I also rated this a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's a perfect intro for anybody who wants to jump into the crime genre because it is creepy, it is violent, but it's not as violent as some of the other crime dramas you have out there. You also, as you have said, like do have romance in it, so it's not like a straight up crime drama. So it's an easy
Mhm.
easy rolling intro into it if
Yes,
you are mostly a romance person. Um,
absolutely.
yeah. And as you said, edge of your seat, like I can't really add anything more to your review because that's pretty much my review. I also have a little bit of issues with some things that have not changed in my 5 rewatches. And I'm sure I know which one you're going to say. But yeah, I also rate this a 9.5 out of 10. Moving on. Okay, so this is your spoiler warning. We are going to deep dive into this show. Please listen to hear Naz's like straight reactions, like whatever, because she will be talking first for most of that. So this is your spoiler warning. If you have not watched this, please go and watch this and come back. Or if you want to be spoiled, continue listening. I said watch. Continue listening. Anyway, where do you want to start in all of this? Do you want to start at the beginning? Do you want to go with characters first? Like, what do you want?
Well, I guess we could just start with the beginning. It's just
Okay.
so much. Like I'm just thinking like I
I
don't even know
know.
where to start. So we first start the show and immediately, like, the show literally opens with Heesung and Jiwon, like, literally having this, like, they're kissing and they're, like, embracing, and I was like, "Oh, this chemistry, like, they're so in
Mhm.
love." I was like, "Oh, like, the chemistry is there, like, the fire is still burning in this relationship." They're just they love each other so much, and we see him, he's, like, devoted husband, devoted father, like, him and the daughter, all their scenes melted my
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just like this is the picture that you get immediately once you enter the show. He's a very devoted husband and father. Wife is a detective, and everything seems perfect on the outside. But you do sense that Song has this darkness to him. And there was a scene in episode 1 when he was practicing like human emotions. Like it was like, this is how you should look when you smile. Like your eyes should crinkle on the sides, your corners of your mouth should be upturned, like things like that. And I was like, what's going on
Yeah.
here? What's
Yeah.
happening? And I was like, is he a psychopath? Like, does he not know? Like, what is this? And then we also get introduced to his parents, and they have a very strange relationship. It feels very awkward and uncomfortable. I mean, we're also led to believe that they don't like his wife. So,
Uh-huh.
because they had this family dinner and they were just being so nasty to her. And I was like, okay, so there are some things in the background here that are just not, they're not right. And I was just like, what is happening here? And so then at that point, I'm thinking, well, like, he's legit, like, you know, a psychopath killer. And like she's gonna find out, she's gonna be devastated because she thought she had this perfect husband. That's what I thought. Like at the, like episode 1, I was like, he has a darkness, a dark past. Something's going on here.
Right.
And
Yeah.
at the end of episode 1, we see that he gets a visitor, and we don't know who, as the audience, who this visitor is. But to us, it looks like he kills this man and puts him in his basement, which is kind of
Yep.
like a bunker situation. And
Yes.
I'm like, did he just kill a man and throw him in his basement? And that's how episode 1 ends. And I'm
Yeah.
shook because I was like, this is how we're starting? What is
Right.
happening?
Right. Did you like how like so the very first scene you're getting in episode 1 is literally a scene we don't get again until episode 5 or 6
Hmm.
because he's in the water and like you have no
Yes.
idea what's going on. Do you usually like that when dramas do that where they like, start off a scene halfway through and then backtrack? Because it happens a lot in crime dramas. Not like a ton, but it is a
Yeah.
trope at this point for a crime drama to start off with like a scene that then doesn't come back again for 7, 8 episodes, mostly
Yeah.
as a hook to like draw you in.
Hmm.
Did you
Yeah.
like that or did it just confuse you and you're like, I have no idea what we're doing right now?
Liked it, but I think at the time I didn't know if it was actually something that was going to happen. Like, I was
Mm,
like, "Is this a dream? What is this?" Because the scene, like, he's literally underwater chained to the bottom of, like, a
yeah.
drain, like, near the drain, and the wife is, like, there, and she's, like, kissing him underwater, so I'm like, "Is this real life?" So I was just like, "Okay." So I didn't even think it was gonna come back around, and when it did, I was like, "Oh, that's what that was."
The introductions to his parents were just like, you hate his parents
Mhm.
until you don't. There was a time, the mom, and we'll get to it later, but the mom I changed perspectives on later. The dad just got worse and worse and worse. like the
Really?
doctor
You
dad.
changed perspectives on the mom?
I did by the end, and I'll tell you why,
Okay.
like, when that changed, because there was a very drastic shift in the power dynamic of their relationship and also just
Yeah.
how she changed by the end too,
Mhm.
that affected my viewpoint of her and
I
my
see.
opinion of her.
Okay.
But at the beginning, absolutely hated her. Same with her husband.
Yes. Terrible people.
Yes. Yes. And because you don't really know why they're acting the way they are acting, and then you kind of
Right.
understand why. Like, what I love about crime dramas is they, for the most part, if they're written well, you learn as people learn. So, like, if it's a investigative crime drama, you learn as much information as as the cops who are investigating a crime learn or whatever. And sometimes they're written differently where we might know more than what characters in the drama know. Sometimes that works if it's written well, sometimes it doesn't. So,
Right.
anything you want to talk about with episode 1, or do you want to go on to episode 2? Because I have a specific thing in episode 2 I want to talk about.
Yeah, no, we can go on to 2.
The first couple episodes is like episodic crime stuff, which
Mhm.
is kind of
Mhm.
normal when you have this overarching crime thing that's going to come be the main focal point in the second half of the drama. Usually crime dramas start out where they have a couple cases that are one-offs to
Mhm.
kind of introduce the characters a little more. And that's what Flower of Evil has in the first 3 or 4 episodes. The scene in the bathroom at the end of that with Mushe Wan's character,
Mhm.
I love that scene because it kind of shows that she's a little crazy herself, in my opinion. It throws off your character of her because you already see that her husband's might be a serial killer.
Right.
So you're like, why would this angel of a character marry this guy and never see this other side of him? How could she not notice something?
Mhm.
And then she does this bathroom fight with the suspect, and you're like, oh, she's a little crazy herself. So maybe they just work together. Maybe that chemistry is there for a reason.
Yeah, she showed a different side for sure. Yeah, no, that was a really good scene. She was just like, "Okay, like, if you wanna go toe to toe, we can do it." Like
Right.
like, we're doing it. And the girl was
Yeah.
shocked. She was just like, nope, I'm gonna do it."
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Because it
Yeah, that was
definitely
good.
pushed the girl off her confidence rocker. Like she
Yes.
just didn't know what to do with the situation.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and I think, like, with Jiwon, she was just like, "You think you're crazy? It's like, I can show you crazy," basically, because I think the girl
Yeah.
thought she had a one up on her, and she's like, "No, you don't."
Right. Yeah. And then you got the scene too in episode 2 where the daughter gets into a fight about the doll.
Oh my gosh. My gosh. I wanted to come through the screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could not believe that. I was like,
Mhm.
so your daughter, like, Eunha, like, touches her classmate's doll. The classmate feels that she can punch Eunha in the face. And then the parents are like, well, my daughter doesn't need to apologize to Eunha. She shouldn't have touched her doll. She's like, but she punched her in the face. That's not a reasonable reaction.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
Yeah.
in fact, Eunha should apologize. And the scene that Eunha apologized, when she was crying as she was apologizing, it broke my heart because you could feel her frustration and her confusion as to why she had to do this.
Right. Well, along with that, it's like you also see Muche Wan is just like
Mhm.
her husband walks in, her husband's like, apologize. And Muche Wan's like, you love your daughter. What the hell is going on
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
I remember that throwing me off in the first time I watched it because I was like, what?
Mhm. Yeah. I was like, why are you being so
She's
passive? What's
like,
going on?
right, like he's passive. And I mean, it also shows just like Muche Wan's character is like a firecracker in general, but
Mhm.
it's just like, it was so unexpected to see that because when you leave episode 1, as you said, literally dragged a guy to the basement. And you're like, you're passive about your child being punched,
Right.
but you drag a guy to the basement and potentially kill him
Right.
before he walks out the door of your workshop.
Right. And I was like,
Okay.
"It's not adding up." But then we
Yeah.
see that he actually did end up, like, taking the doll, and he just, like, had
Yes.
it, and I was just like, "Okay, he got his revenge."
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like but I was like, "What is this doesn't add up." And then also in episode 2 is, like, we find out that this person that he dragged into his basement actually is not dead. He's alive,
Mhm.
and he's, an old bully of Song. He used to bully him really badly in high school, like,
Yeah.
literally tied him to a tree and stoned him.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was shook. I was like, "What is going on here?" So I was shocked. But that's just when, like, the plot starts, like, thickening. Like, the
Right.
overarching
Exactly.
plot starts to, like, kind of, like, take shape.
Right. Where you start suspecting Lee Joon-gi's character of doing these horrible things, but also not 100% believing that at the same time. Because it's like
Exactly.
the whole conversation after because, like, as you said, in episode 1, you see him in the mirror practicing facial expressions. And
Yes.
then the conversation that happened after the fight of his daughter at the
Mhm.
elementary school, he didn't understand and truly did not understand why his wife was angry that he didn't stand up for his daughter. Because in his mind, he was, like, very logical about it
Mhm.
and was like, "We didn't want create something bigger out of this situation,
Yeah.
so I just did it to make everybody happy, and get us out of that situation as quickly as possible."
Mm.
It showed, like, a little more into his personality. He has tried to read people all his life,
Yes.
and you kind of see that facade starting to go away because he now has
Mhm.
somebody in his basement that his wife might know about because she's a cop, and
Mhm.
now he's, like, learns that his wife is investigating crimes that may potentially expose him,
Yeah.
and so it starts unraveling from here, basically. His perfect life that he has built has
Yes.
started to unravel,
Exactly.
and that's, I think, one of the beauty of, like, this drama is, like,
Mhm.
that unraveling part of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Cause like, we find out that, like, we have these flashbacks to, like, when he was a teenager, and, like, we're talking about this man that he has in his basement was a former bully, and we get this flashback to when they're teenagers, and, you know, we're led to believe that he killed the village chief when he was a teenager, and so that is, like, the rumor that's in the town. He's known as the boy that killed the village chief, and this is why he was, like, ostracized from the community because he's a murderer. And, also the teen version of Hee-sung, Lee Jung-gi's character, like, literally his doppelganger. I was
Yep.
shocked at how much he looked like him. I was like, "Where did they find this boy? He looks just like him." Like, it was
Right.
actually crazy. So we have that context of him, like, being like we're as a viewer, we're led to believe that he killed somebody when he was a teenager. But then meanwhile, in present day, there's these serial murder cases happening that are copycat murderers from a past serial killer named Do Min-suk, and
Mhm.
so that's happening, and we're just like, "Okay, what's going on?" And
Right.
it's getting really weird because, you I just you don't know what to think at this point, like, you really don't.
Mhm.
'Cause as far as I'm
Right.
concerned, like, he's a crazy man at this point. Like, he's just
Right.
trying to act like he has it all together.
Right. Yeah. And then the end of episode 2 is when he walks in with the raincoat.
Yes, yes. And I was like, "Where were you?"
Right. Yeah, and the context of this is there was a murder that happens right at the end at a Chinese restaurant by the owner.
Was he the anonymous tip
No,
guy?
he wasn't the anonymous and tipped because that was the older woman.
Okay, okay.
He was involved in one of the murders of the old murders of 15 years ago, but I can't remember what it was because he knew Lee Joon-gi's character as a kid, but
Yes.
I can't remember why.
Yeah, I can't remember why either. Huh, I can't remember
Anyway, he
why.
got murdered
Yeah.
and oh, I get it. So he was getting phone calls
Mhm.
from Lee Joon-gi's character has 2 names in this because as we find out, he has a name of when he was a kid,
Mhm.
because he was the son of a serial killer. And then he basically changed his name, and we'll get into how he changed his name later.
Yeah.
And now he is under another name, married to Moo Chae-won, and
Yeah.
has a kid and has this whole life. And this guy who got murdered in episode 2 was getting calls from a man who was saying he was this Lee Joon-gi's old name, like Do Kyung-soo, I think was his
Yeah. Do
old
Hyun
name.
Soo. Mm-hmm.
So he was getting calls at like 4 a.m. from this guy saying like, "I know what you did. This is Jo Hyun-soo, blah blah blah."
Mm-hmm.
He was freaking out and he called Moo Chae-won's character
Mm-hmm.
saying like, "I'm getting these phone calls. You guys are like investigating the old murders again because you have new murders that have like that are copycats or potentially copycats of this guy. You've never
Mm-hmm.
caught the son." So the cops are hunting down the serial killer's son because
Mm-hmm.
they think that he's doing the new serial killing.
Right.
And this guy's getting phone calls from who he thinks the son is. So he gets killed in his restaurant by a guy in a raincoat where they
Yep.
can't see his face. And then the next scene is Lee Joon-gi walking into his own house in, of course, the rain with a raincoat. And that's where
Yes.
episode 2 ends. So, of course, it's leading you to think that because we know he is the son of this serial killer and he is
Yeah.
the guy who had that name, it leads you to believe that he is the one committing these murders.
Yes. Wait, so but that was Nam Soon Gil, right? The guy that was killed. So
Mhm.
wasn't that was his former roommate, right?
The Yeah, it was the guy who worked with him at the Chinese restaurant.
Okay. Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Okay. Good.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
So that is okay. So I think that's how he got wrapped into it. Got it. Okay. Now I
yeah.
remember.
So that was, like, right after college, so he knew the guy in
Mhm.
college because they were basically trying to find a picture of him that wasn't him when he was 10,
Mhm.
and, of course, Lee Joon-gi's character did not want them to find that picture because then Moo
Right.
Chae-won would know what he would look like.
Exactly.
Okay, moving on to episode 3. So this was episode 3 was when he let the reporter go.
Yes.
That was one thing that happened. Episode
Yes.
3 was also when Lee Joon-gi had to get on the side of the porch because Moo Chae-won walked into the apartment, so we can
That
talk
was
about that as well.
wild. That was wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wanna say he did that for real. Like, it wasn't I don't
That's
know if they did
crazy.
that if he was that high up, but, like, I kinda remember watching a behind the scenes video of him doing that for real.
No, that's crazy. He's literally scaling a building. I was like, "What is happening
Yeah.
here?" Like, my heart was beating so fast. Like, I was stressed for him. Like,
Right.
it was too much.
Yeah, so the reporter was still in his basement, and the reporter was in his basement because the reporter was his old high school buddy who was bullying him, but also was writing
Mhm.
articles about him and his
Yeah.
past due to these new murders coming up. And the reporter found out that he was this actual son of the serial killer who they've been looking for,
Mhm.
and he wanted to go report him to the police, of course.
Mhm.
And of course, Lee Joon-gi could not let that happen. So he dragged him to the basement and pretended to kill the guy, but also kind of like scare the guy to not. Because I think part of it to me was okay, you already have this idea of who I am. So let me
Mhm.
play that role for you.
Exactly. Yeah, I just had to make him think that I would kill him. So, like,
Yeah,
just instill that fear in him. Yeah.
right. Yeah. And this also, I think episode 3 was the first time we also saw his father, his serial killer father,
Yeah.
as a ghost, as, like, the hallucination.
Yeah. The scary black eyes, the blacked out eyes.
Yeah, yeah. So what did you have any thoughts around that? Like, what of just the manifestation of his father? Like, did you have any theories of that yet?
At that point, I was just like, okay, now we know that he's the son of the serial killer. But it seemed, I think what struck me was the fact he had genuine fear of his father. And
Uh-huh.
so I was okay, he seems generally afraid of his father and traumatized by his father, obviously. So it kind of made me wonder, like, is he capable of killing? I was like, I know all signs are pointing to him being this murderer, but I don't think he's capable of murdering people. He just didn't seem like he had it in him, especially with his dealings with Mujin. They were like, because at this point, like, I mean, they've had like multiple like fist fights, choking each other out, stuff
Right.
like that. But he will never like, he was never finishing the job. So I was like, I don't think he's capable of killing. And so that's what I was thinking at that point.
And the thing too is like we learn in episode 3 that his father was trying to make him kill people. Like he
Yes.
wanted him to become his father. Like he was
Mm-hmm.
actively trying to put him in situations and forcing him to do things. Did he do
Yeah.
them? We don't know at this point, but
Right.
it was like for me, when his father showed up, at least in this first thing, there's a little more context of this down the road when he's actually with Muche Wan. But for me, I think you're right, where it is kind of like the guilt of him because this is in this one, when we see him, he's about to kill the guy. He's about to kill the guy he was chasing or attacked him in the woods, and that's when
Mm-hmm.
his father shows up, and his father is basically egging him on and saying,
Right.
"Do it." And I think that kind of was the first inkling of his fear, but also his guilt of
Mm-hmm.
being a part of this family and
Mm-hmm.
living with that or knowing he has to live with that for the rest of his life and trying to like, it's his mind's last stopgap before falling over the edge of him
Mm-hmm.
becoming the person he does not want to be, whether
Right.
he knows it or not. Like, I don't think he realizes that is what his mind is trying to get him to do,
Right.
is to stop it, and so he shows them his mind shows him the one thing he doesn't want to become or the one thing he fears before he goes over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Or whenever a dark thought comes into play, which we'll see later. So I thought that
Yeah.
was really interesting. Also, just as you said, really freaky because the guy has black eyes and is
Yes.
literally like possessed.
Every time he popped up, I was like, ooh, it was
Yeah.
disturbing.
The other funny thing in this was when they ended up fighting and then they were gonna go to the cop shop and the wife pulls up and they open the door and they're both like covered in bruises and
Yes.
like gashes and everything from fighting. She's like, "What the heck happened? What is going on?"
Yeah, and
And
he's
they
like,
had
the
to
only
like
reason why yeah.
yeah, they had
Sorry.
to like explain away that fight.
Yeah. He was like, "The only reason why I'm not killing you is because they're gonna be suspicious. You need to play along when we answer the door." And I was just like, "You were
Right.
not gonna kill him anyways." Like, but yeah, again, he's just trying his best to like instill that fear.
Right. Yeah. And then also like the reporter's reaction to because obviously Mu Wan walks up to her husband first and like looks
Mhm.
at him and is like, "What the hell
Yes.
happened?" And Mu Wan says like, "You're too nice to everybody." And like you see the reporter's reaction to that sentence behind her, and he's like, "Oh my god, you got to be kidding me!" like, because he's
Oh
been gone, he's been
gosh.
missing for, like, 4 days, 3 or 4
Yeah.
days. He's been in that basement,
Yeah.
and so the cops are also looking for this reporter because 'cause they're like, "He wrote
Exactly.
this thing, and all of a sudden he, like, up and
He
disappeared."
disappeared. Exactly. Yeah, so and that's how,
Yeah,
Ichungi ended up having to scale the apartment building because Ichungi went to his
right,
apartment to, like, do something. He had to get something off his computer or something, and the police came to Mujin's apartment, and, like, that's why he had to, like, literally get on the porch, and then eventually, like, scale the side of the building because his wife was literally, like, looking to see if anyone was there, and I was like, "Oh, this is so stressful." A lot of
right.
secrets.
Yeah, yeah, and he went to the guy's apartment to get a tape.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, which was the tape of them going into the basement.
Mhm, mhm.
I thought that was a really interesting way to do a flashback.
Yeah, I agree too, especially because when I watched the scene when they showed, like, the first part of the video, I was like, "Wait a minute, did I miss something? Because I didn't see anything. What happened?" And I was like, "Okay,
Right.
well, maybe they'll show us the full thing later," and then later on, at the end of the show, we find out what actually was in the video. It would have been very bad on Mujin's part if that video got out.
Right. And it also kind of shows in a little bit into Mujin's character too, because
Mhm.
you at the beginning, you also kind of don't like Mujin
Right.
because you think he's like a sleazy reporter that is just
Mhm.
trying to get fame with whatever he can write.
Mhm.
But you realize like maybe him talking about these murders in articles are somewhat out of guilt in a way
Yeah.
because of the video. So, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. He had quite the character development arc.
Yeah. Okay, end of episode 3. What did you think of that?
I was shook. So at the end of episode 3. So okay, so let me get back up. So like now that I'm starting to feel like Sung isn't really a murderer, and like there had
Mhm.
to be some sort of I was like maybe he has a twin, maybe he has like a doppelganger, like some sort of switcheroo happened because I was like I just don't think that this man is a murderer. At the end of episode 3, we find out that Sung is not the actual son of who we know as his parents. And oh my gosh. So basically, we so at the parents' house, they have this like back room. So you go to the main bedroom, open the closet, go into like a back room, and there's a man on life support. Hey, the man on life support is the real Song.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, hold on. So I was like, so who's Kim Ji Hoon, by the way? So Kim Ji Hoon is on life support in a bed, feeding tube, like everything, everything. And I'm like, what? So what part does he play in this? Right? I was like, so what part does he play in this? Because he's literally dying. We don't know why. We don't know what the situation is. But he sung well, who we now know as Hyunsu, is like basically the replacement son. But I'm like, why is this arrangement happening? What
Right.
happened? Like, I need to know. This is crazy. And I was like, okay, okay, good. Like, my suspicions are correct. You know, Hyunsu Sung is not a murderer, but what part does Kim Ji Hoon play in all of this, if any? Because at
Mhm.
this point, I'm like, what part can he play? He's on life support. So what's going
Right.
on? I was like, wait, where's this going? Shook. I literally screamed. I screamed during that scene.
Yeah, it was a really good reveal. Really good reveal. Yeah. Yeah.
I was shocked, especially the way they did it because they have this like family photo in their living room of the
Uh-huh.
parents and Sung, the Lee Jung Gi version of Sung with the blonde wig and all. And then when they do this reveal with like Kim Ji Hoon on life support, they like kind of like do a switch of the family photo and Kim Ji Hoon was in it. So I was like, what? What is this? I was shook.
Yes. Yeah. And this is also the drama, as I told Naz in like our DMs. This is the drama that started Kim Ji Hoon's long hair.
Which we
Because
love. It looks
this
great on
he
him.
had to grow out his hair because he had been in that bed for years.
We're thankful for the show for giving us Kim Ji Hoon with long hair.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, moving on. Episode 4. We got a little insight into Moo Chae-won's dating life in this
Mhm.
episode,
Mhm.
which I thought was nice because we like knew their current married life, but we didn't
Mhm.
know how they met or like anything like that. So we got the start of that a little bit. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we kind of get flashbacks of, like, when she starts getting interested in him because he was honestly, like, he's essentially, like, in hiding. So he's not really
Right.
trying to make connections with people. He's, like, posing as Sung now. He's living his life as Sung. He's trying to lay low. So when, G1 is kind of, showing interest and trying to pursue him. He's trying to scare her off essentially. Be like, you don't want to
Mhm.
be with someone like me. Like, why do you even like me? But it was nice to like see the beginnings of their relationship because I think a lot of his journey is about him realizing that he is capable and worthy of like love. So I think
Yes.
that it was really nice context to see just how in the beginning he was just so resistant to it
Right. Right.
because of everything he had been through. So, I
Yeah.
appreciated
And that
that.
was at the beginning of the drama.
Mhm.
Or at beginning of the episode, and then all hell breaks loose by the end of the episode.
It really does. I really think this is when things, like, really get started. This is
Really
when
pick up.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because, this is when we find out that, like, they're still looking for a photo of a more older Hyunsu. And so we find out that, like, a lady in a village, and I
Yes.
think she said that she was visiting Seoul
Yes.
with her daughter or son or something and
Mhm.
had a picture of Hyunsu in the background.
Yes.
And so they wanted to go get that picture. And the reporter and Hyunsu also find out about this picture, and they're like, "We have to get there first
Yep.
because my wife cannot find this picture."
Mhm.
And so, again, I feel like I always remember that, like, you go into this drama, you go into any crime drama, and, like, unless it's explicitly in the trailer, you never, like, think there's gonna be comedy in it.
Right.
I feel whenever Lee Joon-gi and the reporter are together, there's comedy half the
Yeah, I
time
totally agree.
because
They were so
it's
chaotic
like
together.
they are, like, the reporter is chaotic within himself, but then you have Lee
Yes.
Joon-gi's character who, like, is really dry in his humor
Yes.
and also
Yes.
just, like, doesn't understand social cues. So his
Mhm.
responses are, like, to what the reporter thinks might be normal thinking of,
Yeah.
he'll react to something, and the reporter's like, "Are you crazy for reacting that way? Like, why what?" So, the conversation they had in the car going up to that place was hilarious to me because it was normal for Lee Joon-gi to, like, think about it, but the reporter is just like, "Are you high? What what type of conversation are we having here?" And it's
I
also,
really
like, kind
enjoyed
of
their
the start of,
dynamic.
like, their, like, bromance in a way.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Unlikely
yeah,
friends.
unlikely friends. It always is that type of situation. This is also the episode that we get introduced to the sister,
Yes.
which I thought was a really interesting profession that she chose to be in, given who her
Yes.
father was.
Yes. And that's her trauma
Yeah,
too, right? Like, I feel like
right. That's
she's
her trauma.
work
Yeah.
yes.
I felt like this drama as a whole, trauma is a huge theme in this drama between
Absolutely.
the parents, like
Mhm.
the parents, the couple, the sister, Lee Joon-gi himself, Moo Chae-won for other reasons, the reporter really too, like,
Mhm.
and then guilt going along with that trauma of how
Yeah.
they dealt with situations or didn't deal with situations.
Yeah.
That's a huge, huge topic in this for most of our characters, really.
Mhm.
Because they like, especially with guilt, they either dealt with the guilt in a healthy way or they didn't, and there were a
Yeah.
lot of didn't.
The lot of didn't. A lot of
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah. So, like, speaking of the sister, as you said, dealing with the trauma led her to become a crime scene well, not really crime scene, like a scene builder, but in this scene that we see her in, she's setting up a crime scene, and so she's, like, pouring out blood over an actor and, like, making sure the wound marks look great and whatever,
Mhm.
and I love her response to the director because the director's like, "Can you add more blood in this area?" She looks at him, she's like, "Have you ever seen a dead body? Like, that doesn't make sense." And the director's like, "Okay, have
Eh.
you ever seen a dead body? Like, what?" So, yeah, I thought her choice of profession was good, like, interesting just from what we know of her father, and at this point, we don't know much about what her father did really, but
Right.
know enough, so and then you have Lee Joon-gi, his trauma is he literally shut down. He's trying
Mhm.
to not live or have any connection, where she has to be out in the open because
Exactly.
he was supposedly the murderer of this mayor, so he had to go into
Mhm.
hiding, where whenever her father is brought up in public and these cases have started that up again, she has to face the music. She has to face the criticism in society because people
Right.
find her and she's always running and always trying to live an isolated life to the
Right.
best of her abilities until this comes up again. Reporters seek her out or cops seek her out, as we saw in episode 4, because Moo Chae-won comes and talks to her and tries to figure out where the brother is, where her brother is, and if she's talked to him and if she's seen him. And so that's our introduction to her as well.
Yep. Very interesting. I was like, "Okay, the plot
Yeah.
just continued to thicken."
Right. So, going back to when it just escalates 100%.
Yes.
So they're in this village and they get attacked. This is the first time we kinda see that kinda get concrete evidence he is not the killer of these copycat killers,
Yeah.
at least. And because they go and find this old woman, well, the reporter does. The other dude, Lee Joon-gi, doesn't go in. And the reporter and the old woman get attacked, and Lee Joon-gi does get the picture from the guy who did attack them, but then Moo Chae-won shows up with her partner and
Mhm.
is now chasing her husband through the farm fields and through a greenhouse, thinking that
Yes.
he's the one that who, like, attacked the reporter and the grandmother
Yes.
or the older woman.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Oh, I was
yeah,
like, this is so bad. I was like,
right,
this is so
yeah.
bad.
But again, you see these little inklings, which is, I think, what is great about this show is you see, even if he thinks, because part of the show is him realizing he can love somebody and he can have
Yes.
emotions towards somebody, and
Yes.
even within when they're fighting in the greenhouse, you realize he's not trying to injure her, like, he's avoiding
Exactly.
it, and
Yes.
he's just trying to get away, and so
Yes.
when the shelf of tools try and fall on her, he goes
He
and
protects
blocks
her.
it for her. Okay, like, that is going to be a reoccurring thing in this drama
Yes.
of
Yes.
him realizing that he actually does care for his wife in whatever
Yeah.
capacity he thinks he does.
Yeah, and I think the show did this such a great job weaving that into the story. Like this we have this really dark crime story, but they're also weaving in this like healing story too.
Mhm,
It's like in
mhm.
this deepening realization of like who he really is as a person. But yeah, as these events are happening. So I thought that was really well done.
Right. Eventually, he gets away, she gets handcuffed to a shelf,
Yes.
and he goes to a hotel in the countryside to wait for this taxi driver to show up
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
he's figured out that this taxi driver is the one doing the copycat
Mhm.
kills. And again, that's when all hell breaks loose.
I know.
So at the end of episode 4, he essentially gets kidnapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, by this taxi driver, which I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, "Dude, you know martial arts. How are you the one being kidnapped?"
Yes, yes, and cause like but the taxi driver was really quick to, like, drug him and, like, do all this
Yeah,
stuff, so it was, like, very quick, but the other interesting thing with the taxi driver is that he is the husband of one of who he believes is Do Min-suk's, like, victims. His
yeah,
wife's name is Mi-suk, and her body was never found. You know, whenever, like, he's talking to Hyun-soo and he's like, "Where's Mi-suk? Where's Mi-suk?" And he's just like, "I don't know who Mi-suk is, like, I don't know, like, I really don't know." And so that's what he's trying to find out, and that's why he's been committing all these murders and, like, he's trying to draw out Hyun-soo so he can find out, like, where his wife is. And also, another thing that happened was that, you know, Hyun-soo was, like, taken from, you know, the place and, like, kidnapped, but his watch was left behind in the shed where him and his wife were fighting. We're
mhm,
kind of not fighting, but struggling. His watch was left at the scene, and the police were like, "Oh, this watch was in the shed. Is it yours?" And they asked Ji-won, and she was like, and she looked in the back because she's like, "Oh my gosh, this can't be happening." Because she's like, "If I turn this around and I see my husband's initials on it, I don't know what I'm gonna do." She turns and watches around, his initials are on it, and she's like, it kind of now her fears are starting to get confirmed. Like, "Oh my gosh,
yeah,
is my husband a killer? Like, what is like, why is my husband involved in any of this?"
right,
So that's when she starts to spiral.
yeah,
Rightfully so.
yeah,
It's very scary.
exactly. Oh, yeah, for sure. And then episode 5 is when we see what the outcome of the kidnapping and how that all
Yes.
played out.
Yes, because we see this episode that they do, like, the callback to that opening scene of the show.
Right.
Because basically, the taxi driver, he kidnaps Hyun-soo, ties him to, like, the bottom of, like, a large bath. Like, it looked like kinda like the spa bathtubs, like, the really big ones. Like,
Yeah.
literally tied him to the bottom of it, and it's just slowly filling it with water, and he's in there with him too, and he's like, "Tell me where Mi-suk is. You have to tell me where Mi-suk is. Where's her body? Where is she?" And he's like, "I don't know. I don't know." And it was also revealed that the keychain that was found that the taxi driver's wife had, um, that was a keychain that was given to Hyunsu's sister, Haesu, at the dad's funeral. And so when, Hyunsu saw, like, the keychain, he was like, "Wait a minute, like, that's the keychain that Haesu got the day of the funeral, like, where did Miso get that from?" So then now I'm wondering, okay, how's the sister involved in this? Then now I'm thinking, like, the sister is involved in this somehow. And yeah, and then basically, as I was saying, like, the bath is filling up with water, so eventually Hyunsu is drowning. He's tied to the bottom of a drain, and I was like,
Mhm.
this is terrible." Like, he's literally drowning, and so, meanwhile, the wife ends up like, the police are also, like, on the move and pursuing them, so they were able to get to the place where the pool was, and so she dives in to save Hyunsu, and she's like, first of all, she dives in immediately. To me, she kisses him, and I'm like, he's dying. Why are you kissing him? But then I was like, oh, she's giving him mouth to mouth. But I was like, can you give mouth to mouth underwater? Is that a thing?
I think you can. I think you can do it for, like, a very short period of time, though, until you can, like, get them out of the water.
Okay, because I was like, is this real? Like, I was like, what are we doing? Because I was like, why are you kissing him? He's dying. And I was like, oh, it's mouth to mouth. And I was like, wait, can you do mouth to mouth underwater? And I was like, okay, well, I guess I learned something new today. Um, but yeah, so
Let me Google it to see.
yes, because I was, like, really curious. I was like, and mind you, like, he's still tied to the bottom of the drain, so she's just doing mouth to mouth, but I'm like, "Yeah, but we need to get him out of there." So then she gets back out of the pool, gets a knife, cuts him free, and manages him to get him out, and she's trying to revive him, and, like, at the end of the episode, we still can't see if she's able to actually get him to wake up, but then also, what is his name? Detective wait, listen, Detective Choi, he ends up getting stabbed by the taxi driver in, like, the
Yes.
whole kerfuffle as well, so it was a lot. It was a lot going on.
It was a
It was a
lot.
lot going
Yeah.
on, and then baby I call him Baby Boy Cop. It
Yes.
was Hojun.
There's always a baby boy cop in crime dramas. There always is one, and there's always a trope. There's always a trope. Either they end up dying by the end, or they end up, like, doing something heroic,
Yes.
or they end up, like, severely injured.
Wow, Hojun was option 2. 'Cause in this scene, he wasn't able to shoot the gun because Detective Choi
Yes.
was like, shoot the taxi driver," and, like, he couldn't do it, which, oh my gosh, first of all, I loved Baby Boy Cop. He was so cute.
Yes.
I was like,
I
"Oh
do
my
too.
gosh."
Yeah.
I was like, "I've never seen you before, like, what other shows are you in? I need to know." But, yeah, it was a lot. That episode was so stressful.
Yeah.
It was so
Yeah.
stressful.
Okay. So Google is giving me mixed reviews. Some people are
Mhm.
saying, yeah, you can do it for a short period of time, but other people are like, no, it makes no sense. So I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, because like, I just don't know how, like, it does make sense to, like, shouldn't the priority getting them out of the water? Because even if they wake up, right, they're gonna wake up and breathe in water.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
what is the point?
Yeah, and it's also, like, I guess it depends on how deep they are in a water too, because according to Google here, if you are really, really deep in the ocean and you do
Mhm.
that, and then you get up too fast, which happens anyway, is like
Yeah.
you get the bends, which I don't know. So Google is giving me
Interesting.
mixed reviews, so I do not have 100% guarantee answer for that question. I have no idea.
We'll never know.
If anything, I've seen it done in TV shows all the time, so I have no idea if it
Okay, that was
works.
my first time because I was just like, "Girl, this is not the time to kiss your husband. Get him out of there." And I was like, "Oh, she's trying to give him mouth to mouth."
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, this forum is saying like, yeah, you can do it if you're like it's shallow enough that you can get them to the surface in time. Other people are
Mhm.
like, no, don't do it because it would risk them dying under there. I have no idea. So no idea, no idea.
The jury's out.
Yeah, a joke was like, if your husband's a fish, yeah, definitely do it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, man.
Okay. So, do you have anything else you want to say about that episode?
No.
Okay, cool. I did have one thing. So this was also the first time we saw, and it's at the beginning before everything happened, but this was the
Yeah.
first time that we saw this is a flashback of when they were dating, and she was trying to convince him to date her.
Mhm.
And he realized when he was near her, not necessarily like touching her, but near
Mhm.
her, the ghost of his father that was haunting him went
Mhm.
away.
Yes.
And so I think at that first initial part, he was trying basically convinced to like be with her because it was the first time the hallucination was not there,
Yeah.
which I think kind of symbolizes like it allowed him to like kind of like get out of his own head and at least for a limited time, like enjoy the present and not live with that burden of what his past was and
Yeah.
what he was running from his entire life, basically.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I like the addition of that too. Like, she was, like, his safe place.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So episode 6 is when we get the whole hospital scene and him actually waking up and ever, which I have thoughts about that whole scene.
Yeah.
But you can go first on the hospital scene.
Yeah. And he wakes up and he tries to leave. Like, he immediately just, like, gets out of bed and tries to run. He's just like, "I don't know where I am. Like, what's going on?" And, like, I think he's also really scared that the truth is gonna get out. Because while
Mhm.
we see a flashback of when he was in bed and he hallucinated when Jiwon was sitting next to him, and we see a flashback of his sister covered in blood sitting next to him, and he told her to live a normal life and he won't live as Hyun-soo. And his wife heard that because he thought he was talking to his sister in his hallucination. His wife heard that. So I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and this is when I was like, the sister killed the village chief.
Mm.
That is when I
Mm.
like, that's when I came up with the theory the sister killed the village chief and the brother covered, and Hyun-soo covered up for her. Like, I was like, that's the only reason why this scene would happen. So I was like, I'm gonna keep this in my mind. But yeah, that was pivotal because, Jiwon she's already getting suspicious of,
Right.
his whereabouts, the whole watch thing, him even being like wrapped up with the taxi driver and the reporter in the first place. So she's like trying to piece things together. And yeah, but yeah, I was shocked at that scene. Also, what
Mhm.
was shocking in the beginning of the episode was we get a flashback of the real He song, Kim Ji Hoon's version, this crazy
Mhm.
blonde wig. I don't understand like what he was going through and like why he had like the blonde happening.
It
He
was a rebel. It was a rebel
he
thing.
was yeah, it was just like he's being rebellious. And rebellious he was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like it's like a rainy night and he's just driving down the road and he hits Hyunsoo with his car by accident,
Right.
and he tries to call 911, but Hyunsoo says, "Don't call 911." I was like, "What? What is this?" I was like, because at this point
Well,
I
the other thing
cannot.
is like
Yeah.
the other thing crazy thing with that scene too is like again, you don't know because the conversation he's having while driving is creepy
Yes.
as hell because he's
Yes.
basically assessing a victim, but you don't know
Mhm.
why, and you don't know the
Mhm.
context of that, and you don't realize that's a victim he's talking about until later.
Exactly. Exactly. And
So
at
it's
that point,
like
it's like it feels weird, but it doesn't necessarily feel sinister
exactly.
yet. It's still so
Yes.
many things are still uncertain. So at that point, I'm still genuinely confused as to what Kim Ji Hoon's role is in all of
Mhm.
this.
Yeah, and this is why I told you, we were chatting in DMs, like, until this drama aired,
Mhm.
and until I think they didn't even change the info until it was actually absolutely revealed, like
Yeah.
episode 12 or something. We did not know what his role in this drama was. We just knew he was gonna be in
Mm.
it.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
no, not
crazy.
even his name, nothing. They kept everything under wraps during this.
That's the way to go because
Yeah.
it would have ruined everything if
Oh,
people
yeah,
even knew he was
definitely.
in the show to begin with. Because his character is such a mystery, and even, like, after you see the scene with the accident, I'm wondering, well, if Hyunsoo was the one hit by a whole car, why is Song in a coma on life
Right.
support? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
So, yeah, because then, we see I think, like this is probably going into episode 7, but we see the aftermath and, like, basically the Bake family, like, ends up kind of nursing him back to health. So I'm
Right.
like, Well, if he's living there, where was the real Sung when he was being nursed back to health
Right.
in the house? I was like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, they masterfully put this together where they revealed just enough information to keep you hooked, but
Yeah,
not enough to reveal, like, everything until later.
it's really genius. It's so good.
The only thing I did not like about this episode was I thought it was I mean, I think in I still don't 100% understand why his character decided to do this, but
Mhm.
the fact that he decided to, quote, unquote, "not remember" his daughter, and that was the only
Yeah.
person he did not remember, and I think his character thought it was a joke, like, he thought it would
Yes.
be funny, and it
Yeah.
just didn't come off that way. I was like,
Yeah.
"No, don't do that to the
Poor
daughter."
girl was traumatized. She was like, "Daddy,
Yeah.
no." I was like, he was like, "I'm sorry." It's like, that didn't go over well. My
Yeah.
bad."
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot, and, like, I think another thing that was revealed was Ji-won found the underground bunker under the
Yes.
studio, and I was like, "This is
Mhm.
bad. This is bad." And then also we find out that Hae-soo, Hyun-soo's sister, used to date Moojin in college, the reporter. Not college, I'm
Right.
sorry. She used to date Moojin in high school, and I
Yeah.
was like, "What?" Like, how? I need to know the timeline because he was stoning your brother. So, like, what's happening? I was like, I need more information."
Right.
So, yeah.
And then we also find out how horrible his, Lee Joon-gi's, uh, I wanna say adopted father he's not, like they didn't really adopt him, but, like, his
Yeah.
adopted father is, and just keeps
Yes.
being as horrible as ever till the end. Because in this episode, they start freaking out, his parents start freaking out because he is now deeply involved in this situation, and they have been trying
Yes.
to avoid it for their own
Yes.
selfish reasons,
Yes.
and so now his doctor father decides to ask him to murder the taxi driver who is in a coma in the same hospital,
Yes.
so he can't wake up and tell what he knows, which he
Yeah.
knows that Lee Joon-gi is the actual son of Do Mun-suk, and,
Yes.
like, you get the sense in this episode that this guy has no bounds. Like, he will
Yeah.
go to the ends of the earth to protect whatever he's trying to protect, and at this point, we don't know
Mhm.
what that is to the
We don't
extent of
know at
what that
all.
is.
Yeah, we don't
Um
know anything. And, like, yeah, like, you're right. It's like this is when we really get to see, like, this dark side of the dad. We already know the dad and the mom, they're not good people, but, like, this is
Right.
when we're like, "Oh, like, you're actually, like, asking him to kill somebody." And,
Mhm.
Hyun-soo ends up not doing it.
Yeah.
And also, the taxi driver was faking being in a coma.
Yeah.
He was totally fine.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. But again, it just shows, like, it's like everybody in this show, minus Lee Joon-gi and his wife, are, like,
Mhm.
horrible people. So
Mhm. Literally terrible.
yeah, yeah. Okay, and so she finds the bunker at the end of the episode
Yeah.
and just, like, breaks down because she finds, like, blood in it and everything.
Mhm.
Because that's, of course, where they fought, and so when you come out of the workshop with cuts and bruises on your face, of course there's gonna be blood
Yes, exactly,
in the workshop.
exactly.
Yeah. And so I have to admit, in episode because it's episode 8 where she decides to, like she kinda go crazy in episode 7, where she's like, "I hate my husband, I don't trust him, whatever, whatever." And I honestly was mad at her the first time I watched this
Mhm.
because it's like, of all the people and I think he has the perfect reaction to this, later on in the show, but, like, of all the people who should know him well enough, in
Mhm.
my mind, it's like, that is not the reaction I thought you would have,
Mhm.
because instead of thinking like, "No, he can't be this person, he's my husband, I've been married to him to how many years, whatever," she
Right.
immediately goes down the route that everybody else has done in his life of immediately thinking he's this horrible murderer
Right.
due to his father, due to, like, the stereotypes that have followed him, and I'm like, "Of the one person who should not go down that route, you have been
Mhm.
doing that for this episode." I was so mad the first time I watched that.
Yeah. I honestly just felt sad for him. Like, I just felt
Yes,
really sad because
exactly.
he's like, it's, yeah, because I understand. I mean, as the wife, I would probably be suspicious too. All signs were pointing to it. So, like, I
Right,
get it,
right,
but she didn't talk to him about it. But I guess at that point, it's like
right.
if you think your husband's a murderer, you're not gonna like try to reason with him and be like, "Did you kill these people?" Like, like you've already
Yeah,
convinced yourselves. All signs are pointing to it, so you just have to kind of like she's kind of less was like, "Well, I guess this is what it is." But like, so like I
yeah,
get it, like I got it, but it was sad because we know that like he loves his family and he was devastated that like he's like, I thought I finally found somebody that truly just knows me and loves me for me, and like even she doesn't
right.
trust me. So it was like really heartbreaking for him.
What I think got me most angry with her, though, in this episode is she took him to the basement of his
Oh my gosh.
house.
Oh yes. Okay. So like yeah, she was doing like psychological warfare on him. And
Yes,
it was
yes,
just she was putting him in a lot of situations to like make him sweat. And I think that was like her detective coming out. Like,
right.
okay, I'm just gonna try to
I
like
think the
yeah.
basement to me, though, was too far.
Yeah, it was a lot.
'Cause
I was uncomfortable.
on one hand, like, okay, I realize you did not realize what this place would do to your husband because you don't know
Mhm.
him. You don't
Yeah.
know his connection to this house. You don't even know
Mhm.
what happened in this basement potentially, because I don't know if you've
Mhm.
read the case report from 15 years ago.
Right.
But I'm just like, if I were you and I was seeing my husband having a full-blown panic attack in this basement, I would not think that he would be a murderer who was using this basement to kill people. I would be like, "Oh, crap, he's a victim. Let me get him out of here." And instead, you
Yeah.
kinda just stuck around for a little too long, and then he has a
Yeah.
full-blown panic attack. And that was, like, my first reaction when I was first watching this, because I was like, "This is the worst case scenario you could have put him in." Like, I got you up to this point, and then you took him to this basement and kind of let him have a panic attack.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. I think because she literally just sees him as a murderer at this point, she's like
Mhm.
again, the
Mhm.
detective is coming out and she's like, I'm gonna make him sweat and oh, he must be uncomfortable because he did it. Like
Right.
I feel like that was like her mindset. Doesn't make it right because we know as the audience that he is innocent. So it
Yeah.
hurts us because we're like, he hasn't done anything and you're like re-traumatizing him. But to her, she's
Yeah.
like, oh, he's a cold-blooded killer and I need to force it out of him. And I think
Yeah.
she basically like dehumanized her husband at that point. Like I don't think she saw him as her husband. She was just like, this is another criminal I
Yeah.
need to catch, which was sad.
I'm trying to remember at this point, do they know if he had an accomplice? They did, right?
So I don't think the accomplice conversation had happened yet.
It was like a theory that he might have had one though. Like, I
Yes,
guess the
yes.
theory was like his
I think
son was the accomplice.
yes, I think the theory was they had no proof. Right. They had no proof, but like they were like his son must have been his accomplice because I think um the guy that died in the near the beginning of the show had left a message for the journalist and was like, "Oh, like
Yes.
Domin Suk and
Yeah.
Hyunsu, they murdered people together." So I think that's
Yeah.
why they were like coming
Yeah.
after him because you're like, "Oh, like you're the accomplice, like you have to be the one doing the copycats." Da da da. They find out that's not
Right,
true, but
right,
they're
right.
still kind of like he has to be an accomplice. Like he has to be.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and you'd think the basement, I mean, I don't know, again, because I'm extremely logical, I was like, his reaction to basement does not shout to me that he reveled in being in this area again
Yeah,
at all.
yeah,
Like, he did not have reaction of somebody who was being an accomplice to these murders at all.
right, right.
Because normally, if you are and you are have a serial killer mindset of that, that's your trophy room. Like
Mhm,
you feel comfortable in that area. That's where you get to be yourself.
mhm.
And his reaction in this room was not him being his self. Like it wasn't even like a panic attack because she was finding out things. He was literally having a panic attack for being in that
For being
room,
in the
for
room.
what
Yeah.
went on in his childhood in that room.
Yep.
And also I guess it's not revealed yet, so I don't wanna talk about it. I can't remember when it's revealed, like episode 14, maybe. His mom, episode 14.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll get to that later.
Yes.
So, that was episode 8? No, 7. That was episode 7. So then we get to episode 8, and again, I couldn't by the end of episode 8, I felt better about her, but in episode 8, she did something that I also was angry at her about because she would get the wrong idea from it, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
So this is
But
when
also
go ahead.
before this, and we do get the confirmation that Jesus did kill the village chief at the end of
Yes.
7. Yeah. And then we get like
Yes.
the full story in 8. So I was like, I was right.
Yes. Yes. You were right, you were right. So in episode 8, we get was episode 7, was that when she walked in or was that earlier? When they're in the reporter's apartment and they start working together.
Yeah, I think that has started happening lately. Yeah.
Yeah, they when Lee Joon-gi and the reporter were in the room
Mhm.
by themselves and Moo Chae-won comes in and knocks on the door and Lee
Mhm.
Joon-gi at first was trying to hide and not be there, but then 3 pizzas
Right.
show up.
Right. Yes, yes, yes.
And then he just casually comes walking in and be like, "Yeah, I'm here," and he wanted to talk about workshop stuff, and then the sister is also in the apartment,
Yes.
so that was a whole thing that was, like, giving anxiety in episode 8 too, because it was
Mhm.
like, this was the first time that Moo Chae-won had seen the sister since interviewing her, and then realizing the 3 of them were in this apartment together, and she, like in her mind, it obviously confirmed that he was the person that she was investigating,
Yes, yes.
because the sister was there,
Yes.
and obviously she realized that they somewhat were investigating this because she saw the entire investigation on the window,
Mhm.
and with the whole trap thing and everything. But that
Exactly.
whole scene where the reporter was trying to not make her come into his apartment, and then the husband just like Lee Joon-gi just strolls up and he's like, "Oh, honey, you're here. Hello."
Yeah. It's just like, why are you here? Like, make it make sense.
Right.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was crazy because I was like, how are you gonna get out of
Yeah,
this one? It was messy.
exactly. Yeah, it was like you can't scale a building again. Your sister wouldn't
Yeah.
allow you to jump out that window.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then another thing that stuck out to me was we see like a flashback of when Sung's parents made the arrangement with Hyunsu, and he
Mhm.
was like, "Okay, you guys are nursing me back to health from this accident. I'm the one that was hit by a car. Why is your son unconscious? What's going on?" And all they said was, "There was an accident. We need you to pose as our son." And then he was like, okay, because he needed a new start anyways. And then we also, this was a huge development. So the sister recalls the dad's funeral, and she said there was this man that came to the funeral and he gave me this keychain and he was crying so much. And they deduced that the dad's accomplice had to be this person that came to the funeral and gave her
Yeah.
the keychain. And then we get an explanation as to what happened with the village chief. So she killed the village chief because she asked the village chief if they could stop doing, like, the shamanistic rituals over Hyunsu in the
Yeah,
village
so
because
not only
everyone
is
thought
Hanju being stoned by his high
Mhm.
school people,
Yep.
because his father is a serial killer, they were afraid that the son would be the same guy, so
Yeah.
they decided to shamanistic rituals on him to get out whatever they thought was possessing him.
Mhm. And it was sad, and the sister went
Yeah.
to go beg the village chief, "Please, can you make it stop?" And then the village chief attacked her, and then sh in self-defense, she ended up killing him, and Hyunsu came and was like, "I will take the blame for this. You go live a normal
Mhm.
life. It'll be me. They think I'm a murderer anyways, so let them
Right.
think that I murdered the village chief." And
Yeah.
yeah, and then also going back to, like, the sister, Jiwon followed, um, Hyunsu when he was having a meeting with the sister, and
Mhm.
he was telling the sister, like, "Yeah, our dad had an accomplice, the keychain, that you had, like, belonged to the last victim, and everyone thinks that he's the accomplice." And they were talking, and the sister was like, "Do you love Jiwon?" And he said, "No, I don't know that feeling." And Jiwon overhears this, and
Yeah.
this is a switch happens. A switch
Mhm.
happens, and, like, it was really sad because you can only imagine, like, hearing, like, from your significant other that they don't love you. They never did, and it was sad because I feel like as the audience, we know that he definitely loves her, but he doesn't know, he can't at this point, he can't really discern that he's struggling because I feel like he still at this point doesn't really understand love or, anything, but he doesn't understand, like, you're already showing it. Like, you are in love, But I feel like he just doesn't feel like he's worthy of it. Um, but yeah, that was a big
He
turning point
also
because
has never had that sense of reason of his sister
yes.
beside him to tell
Yes.
him, "No, you actually do," until this moment. Like,
Exactly.
she was like, "But your pictures on your phone, like, the way you talk about her, that's not
Mhm.
actually true."
Mm.
And, I think if he had had somebody like that since he started dating her and, like, in his
Yeah.
life in general,
Yeah.
it would have been a completely different life that he would have encountered up to that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally
Yeah,
agree. And, like, yeah, this is a very
yeah.
action-packed episode, and then at the end of the episode, I really need to hear your thoughts on when he sung "Woke Up" from his coma. So,
Okay, first,
basically
I'll
yeah.
quickly going back to that scene in the pool, though,
Yes.
that was when I got mad at Muchae again. Because
Yeah.
she just walked away, and I'm like, "Of course you would walk away during that one point where if you had stayed longer in that conversation, you would have heard the rest of the conversation where he actually does kind of acknowledge, like, "Okay, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I do
Yeah.
love her, I just don't." And I'm just like, "You missed that entire part, oh my god, what the hell?"
And she just, like, leaves, and she's, like, walking on the bridge all sad and, like,
I know, I
crying.
know.
I was
Yeah,
like, "Goodness." But,
right.
yeah, so, like, we get to a point where Song's parents are stressed and they're like, this stuff is gonna get out. I
Mhm,
really don't know how this this is like things are really coming to a head. And the mom and like as a mother, she sees her son on life support for like 10 years. And she's like, he's not
mhm,
even living, like he's suffering. Why are we keeping him on life support for no reason? And that's what her and her husband argue about that all the time. So basically she goes into the room one night and she's like, "I'm gonna just end it. Like, I'm gonna, like, try to, like, basically make Song die." So she takes the oxygen mask off of his face, and he's, like, gasping. Here's the thing, I was like, I'm not a doctor, but
mhm,
this man was on life support, as in, you know, he's either brain dead he's brain dead, like, or at least he should be. He's on life support. He's been on life support for, like, 10 years. So if you were to take oxygen off of somebody that is like the only reason why they're breathing is because of mechanical ventilation, like because of a machine, why would they be gasping for air when you take oxygen off? Like he's
mm,
not breathing on his own. A
right,
machine is breathing for him. So why would he be gasping for air when you take the oxygen off of him? So he's like
mhm,
gasping for air and then the dad comes in and the dad's trying to stop it. He's like, "What are you doing?" And but then Sung eventually he's like, he's awake. He's out of his coma.
right, right.
And I was like, I don't know if this is medically correct.
At that point, at that scene, I wasn't really assessing if it was medically correct. I was just like, "Oh my god, he's awake."
Yeah, I couldn't believe I think it was like annoying because like the gasping and stuff. And I was like, I think I have a hot take about um some of the acting performances, but I was he's like gasping, and I was like, I feel like if someone's on life support, like it wouldn't be gasping. Like he's not breathing on his own. A machine is breathing for him. So why would he? Yeah. So that distracted me from the whole thing. But I was shocked. I was like, he woke up. I literally wrote an all like
Mm.
explanation points. He woke up. So I'm like, well, now he's gonna be around. So like what part is he gonna play now? Because at this point I still didn't know like how he was gonna be involved in all of this.
According to Google, that does happen. So
Okay.
it's called agonal breathing, which is including gasping is a common sign of when life support is removed.
Uh,
So it it's apparently it's like really shallow breathing until
okay.
like the
The
last
breathing
breaths.
stops.
Yeah. So
Okay.
apparently that happens all the time.
Okay, thank you so much. I love all the Google checks we've had to do today.
Yeah. And also apparently according to Google, it's like a reflex of the dying brain. So
Uh,
if they're brain dead, it's just a reflex that the brain does
I
until they're
see.
actually dead,
I
apparently.
see. I see. Okay. Well, he was
Yeah.
brought back to life.
Yes.
When
Yeah.
threatened with
I
impending death, he came back to life.
Yeah. That was, like, the only thing. I was just like, 10 years, and if you had known you just take life life support, he'd wake up.
That's the thing. I was like, "Wait, but, like, you could have done this, like, when he was first in the coma then. You could have just taken his oxygen off, and then he would have woken up."
Right. I love I don't love it, but, like, when the wife was freaking out because as you were watching this show, you're like, "The wife needs a chill pill." She, like, has anxiety all the time, and at this point, we don't know why.
Right.
Like, I mean, we know why to an extent in terms of, like, the stress of hiding this thing
Right.
for 10 years or something, however long it was,
Yeah.
15 years, is obviously eating her alive, and
Yes.
she, like,
Yes.
can't deal with it.
Yeah.
Again, speaking of trauma and everything, we think the trauma of the accident with with her son is the reason why she's like this, and then we find out why, really why.
Mhm. Mhm.
There was this scene in this episode where, she was trying to, like, convince her husband to let her kill him and say,
Mhm.
like, if he knew that he was on life support for the last 10 years, he would beg us to kill him. Like, this
Mhm.
is not the life that he would have wanted,
Mhm.
and the husband slaps her for saying
Yeah.
that, and then immediately was like, "I'm sorry, I couldn't control my emotions."
I was like, "Sir, what?"
Yeah, I'm just like it was interesting to see because it's like, okay, yeah, she was freaking out. She definitely probably needed a slap, but at the same time, it's like, that is what you do when you can't control your emotions is you slap your wife?
Right. And that's when like, to your point you said in the beginning, you kind of had a different perspective on her, and that's in that moment, I felt like,
Yeah.
"Okay,
Yeah.
this woman has been through a lot because her
Mhm.
husband has showed sketchy tendencies throughout the
Yes.
show, but I think, like, when you see her literally get abused by him in that moment, I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, this woman has probably been through a lot the the last few years with this man."
Yeah, exactly. But you also get the first sign in this episode. I think this episode really is the first sign of like there is definitely something more
Mhm.
of why her husband is keeping his son on life support. Not just like
Mhm.
he can't let go of him. Like something
Mhm.
else is really driving this man to keep him there.
Yeah.
And that this episode and him like basically almost pushing her aside to, like, save him, quote, unquote, "save him,"
Mhm.
when she takes the mask off. There's something else driving that other than
Yes.
just can't letting his dying son go,
Mhm.
which we find out later why.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that was episode 8. Episode 9 is, again, we get our trio people still working together and whatever.
Yes.
Um, this is the episode that was a turning point for Moo Chae-won, really, which
Mhm.
thank God we got it. I remember the first time I was like, if I have to go 6 or 8 episodes of her absolutely, like, going against her husband and not
Yeah.
coming full circle, I won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
And she came full circle, thankfully, in episode 9, where she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna prove them wrong. Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
prove that I did not marry a murderer."
Mhm. But before that, she, like, had decided that
Yeah,
she was gonna leave him, and I was heartbroken. I was so heartbroken for Hyunsoo, and the way that he was begging her, he was like,
yeah,
"What do I need to do? I can fix it. I'll do anything." And I think even in that moment, he realized, "Wow, I really do love this woman. Like, I really do
yeah,
love her." Because when like, oh my gosh, I think Lee Joon-gi, what he does with his eyes is just it's so good because you could just see the
mhm,
pain. He was like, "What do you mean you're leaving me? Why? Like, where's this coming from? What do I need to do? I'll do absolutely anything." Wha Oh, it was so sad. It
yeah.
was so sad.
Yeah, because like, up until this point, Lee Joon-gi really thought he could trick his wife. Like, he
Yeah.
thought he knew everything about her. He thought he had,
Mhm.
like, played the perfect husband, perfect daughter. She would never doubt him, anything. And he did that by reading her facial expressions
Mhm.
and learning her. And so in episode 8, 7, 9. when he starts seeing like these emotional reactions from her that she normally doesn't do towards him, like getting
Mhm.
angry out of nowhere, or like in her eyes, she like may look happy, but like is angry or sad or whatever. Like he doesn't know what to do with that. Like he can't handle that because
Mhm.
he really can't understand what he did because he doesn't know at this point that she knows.
Yeah.
He can't understand why she's reacting the way she is because he, at this point, is like, "Okay, if she's mad, I've done something. I can fix this.
Mhm.
I can bring her flowers. I can make her dinner, whatever."
Mhm.
But when that doesn't work, because he did that whole rooftop thing with her, with the daughter, when that doesn't
Mhm.
work, he's like, "I don't know what happened." And then, because now we also kind of realize that, like, yes, he does love her, but also she is his, like, safe space.
Mhm.
And we've gotten kind of inklings of that throughout with, like, his father's hallucination disappearing or whatever, but, like, he is now slowly learning that he also depends on her of being that safe space, and he
Mhm.
starts freaking out from this from about episode 9 to the end when
Yeah.
he realizes that could go away and that could be
Yeah.
gone. Like, it's not only, like, him realizing that he loves her, but also he is losing that safe space that he has built, come to, for lack of a better, like, depend on,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
and it
Absolutely.
scares him when it starts to slip away or potentially slip away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I totally agree. Man. Ugh. This show.
Scene where they're washing dishes,
Mhm.
where, like, still, they have amazing chemistry in this
Yes.
scene, but I think you're incorrect in, like, there's even within these scenes where she absolutely knows almost everything and just hates his guts and, like, does not understand what she's gonna do in the situation, but they're looking like a real married couple washing dishes while they're, like, having this conversation of, like,
Yeah.
and she is lashing out saying, like, "I feel like our entire relationship is a lie, like, you have forced laughs and smiles at me, and, like, I
Mhm.
just don't like you right now, like, I can't
Yes.
even look at you.
Ooh, the whole speech really broke my heart.
Yeah, I don't know if you're lying or not." Yeah.
Mhm.
And then he, again, like, has no idea where this is coming from. So he's
Mhm.
like, "What happened here?"
Mhm.
Yeah. I can't remember what did he absolutely. Yeah, he literally was just saying, like, "I don't understand what's going on."
Yeah. He was like, "I don't know where this is coming from." It came out of
Which I
complete left field
loved
to him.
because it was like it was communication. Like, even if
Mhm.
she wasn't saying stuff, he was like, "I literally don't know why this is happening." And it was, like, blunt and very to the point, which was his character. But she obviously didn't know that that was, like, him because she didn't trust him. She was like, "Of course you know why, because you've lied. Of course you know
Yep.
why."
Yep.
So, yeah, I love
Exactly.
that conversation.
It was so good. I appreciate it as painful as it was. Because I feel like in a lot of shows that conversation wouldn't have happened. She would have just like packed up her stuff and just
Right,
left. Like she
right.
was like, "I can't stand to look at you right now. You're a liar. I don't even
Mhm.
like you anymore." And I was like, "Wow, wow, wow, okay." And I think she had just
Yeah,
had so much frustration because she's like, "This person that I've trusted and built a family with, they're keeping things from me, and I don't understand
I know.
why. What is going on? I feel like I don't know you at all." Yeah, you could definitely feel her frustration in that moment.
Yeah. Oh, and then he goes and talks to his little trio of people, 2 people, he's the trio.
Yes.
He's, like, trying to dissect this, and the sister's like, "You like her."
Yeah.
Like, you could tell she just wanted to smack him on the side of his head
Right.
during
Right.
that whole analysis, and then the reporter's like, "Yeah, just go make her dinner, like, make her happy," and then Hansu's like, "I'm gonna catch the guy. I'm gonna catch the serial killer. She'll be happy. She'll be happy after that." I had to laugh at that the first time I watched because he's like, "No, I'm not gonna go make dinner. I'm gonna go catch the bad guy for her."
Oh, so funny. Oh
Yeah.
man.
So then we start him because he's decided to do this.
Yeah.
He called the police station, obviously as Do Hyun Soo, and it was like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
not the accomplice, but I'm going to help you find them. Here's
Mhm.
what we're going to do. I'm going to go in there. I'll have a wire on me. I'll help you out because
Mhm.
you'll bring down this humongous human trafficking organization because that's how my father got his victims. And
Ugh,
well, it's like
crazy.
killing two birds with one stone. You'll help
Yes.
find this accomplice guy and also bring down this organization. And I'm going to help you do it in proving that I am not this killer guy that you think I am.
Yes. And even the way they kind of fed in the human trafficking organization,
Mhm.
genius. It was
Yeah.
just so seamless. They did it so well. I was like,
Yeah.
this makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that was really kind of like the turning point for Muchewan because
Mhm.
she like realized that crap, my husband is about to go do this and I know who he is
Mhm.
and I still care that he's going to go put himself in harm's way
Mhm.
when I'm the cop over here. So I'm going to go to the front of the police station and call him. And granted, she's talking to Do-hyun Soo, so
Yeah.
she's like trying to get him to give her more information on his life, which he does answer truthfully. So she knows who she's talking to, he does not. So she's getting a little more background of what he thinks, and like she actually tells him to be careful, which kind of throws him off because he's like, "What?"
Mhm.
But I love that entire, as I said, like her coming around and because she now knows who he is.
Yeah, and he has no idea that she knows.
It's like,
Yes.
"You better be safe because I miss you and we're gonna fix this after this mission."
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Man, and then also, um, is this still wasn't I think might be the next episode. Never mind. I was gonna bring up something about what happened with one of the other detectives.
And then we have the other thing that it was, I think, running in parallel to the last couple episodes, or at least in this episode, is when the reporter and Do Hae-soo, the
Mhm.
sister, like they go back to her apartment and he kind of sees her how she's been living for
Yeah.
the past 15, 10 years, something like
Mhm.
that. I also was not happy at first in this whole relationship because like
Mhm.
when they first started working together, the trio of them, he couldn't keep his eyes off of her.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, okay, it's kind of sweet, like yeah, you guys dated, it's clear that you still have feelings for her, but at the same time I'm just like, dude, you did so many bad things to their family,
Yes.
so much, and I don't want you with the sister at
That's
all.
the thing. I was not for that relationship
Mhm.
at all. I don't know how realistically they'd be able to function as a couple considering everything. Not that forgiveness isn't a thing, but just like everything that he had done to the brother, I don't know why she wanted to be with him in the first place. Even
Right.
back then, I was like, I don't understand this.
Well, it's also too is like he came off as if I help her brother out or if I do this, she'll like
Mhm.
me again. Like it seemed
Mhm.
very opportunistic. Like that was his motive. It wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily to be the good guy and like right his wrongs that he did. It was like I'm going to
Mhm.
help so she can be my girlfriend again,
Mhm.
which seemed icky to me at the time when I watched it the first time.
Yeah, I don't know, his intentions just didn't seem sincere, like you said,
Right.
and
Yeah.
even the things they said to her in high school, like, "When I look at you, I see Domin Suk, like, you disgust me." Just like, I don't know how you can come back from that. I
Right.
just don't. Like, forgive, of course, but, like, just, like, to be in relationship with that person, like, that is a huge part of your trauma as well. I mean, it's the reason why she lives the way it's one of the biggest reasons why she lives the way she lives as well. So, yeah, wasn't a fan.
Episode 10 is when the whole mission thing goes down.
Yeah.
What did you think?
There's just there's so much. So, Song is, like, up and about living his life. He's still in a wheelchair, but he's, like, awake, he's asking
Mhm.
questions, still confused, but he's like, "Okay, so, if this other guy is living as me. What am I supposed to do? And at this point, I'm like, I feel bad for him. You know, what's is he good? Like, he seems like he's lost in this world. He doesn't know what he's gonna do now. Um,
Right.
I am getting creepy vibes, but still, I literally do not know what his role is in all of this. So, but he's just confused because he's like, well, if he's Song and I'm the real Song, what do I do? Like, where do I go? How am I supposed to live my life? And then something big that really happened was Detective Choi found out that, you know, Song is not Song, he's Hyun, like Do Hyun Soo.
Uh-huh.
Jiwon knew about it and he confronts her and is like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I was like, oh man, you could tell he was so angry and disappointed in her. And I was like, this is so bad. I was like, you don't understand. He's innocent. He's innocent. But all he sees is like corruption. You're trying to cover up for your husband. What is going on? Um, the one other thing that happened in this episode that really blew my mind was, so back to this accomplice. We're still trying to figure out this accomplice. The sister went to hypnotherapy because she's trying to remember more details about this accomplice that came to the dad's funeral. Because, like she said, she was like, I know the guy that came to the funeral and gave me that keychain was the accomplice. He had to be. And so during the hypnotherapy, she remembered that the person had on this bracelet and they had very short, like really horribly bitten nails. And so they look up the bracelet, and the bracelet is linked to Song's dad's like medical program he does with like volunteers over the summers. And I was like, okay, so we're now linking back to the dad, Song's dad. So then now, and then very short nails literally cut to a scene of Song in his wheelchair cutting his nail, not cutting his nails, biting his nails. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, oh my gosh, he's the accomplice. He has
Yep.
to be. I was like, this is so bad. I was like, no. I was screaming. I was screaming. I could not get I was not okay. But like, and I also really loved just how the details, right? Like this random rubber bracelet that this man has on links it to the dad, to the hospital, to the volunteer program, the short nails. I was like, my gosh, this is crazy.
Or even like how the cop found out, how her partner found
Mhm.
out. It was a recording that the reporter dropped during episode 4 when he was fighting off the killer in the country house with the old woman, and she returned
Mhm.
it in episode 10, and then he listened to it, and it wasn't even a recording. The reporter was actually doing an interview. He had secretly recorded it, that he was supposed to have deleted it. So if he
Yeah.
had deleted it, the like partner would never have known Moo Chae-won was married to the guy. Like that whole thing. Again, connected threads, all that stuff.
So good.
Crazy, crazy. Guys, moving on to episode 11.
Yeah.
Well, first off, in episode 10, she was waiting in the park because they still has no idea still that the watch has a tracking thing on it for
Right. Yeah, 'cause she's clocking him all the
7
time. She always knows
episodes,
where he
8.
is. Yes. She always knows where he is.
So he like makes it to the park in time because she was like, if you're not there in this
Yeah.
amount of time,
In an
we're gonna
hour,
have
yeah.
issues.
Yes. And then, like, when
Yeah,
he came, he's, like, all happy-go-lucky, like, "I made it just in time,"
right.
like it's a normal day, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're so cute
Right.
in
Yes.
the midst of all this chaos."
Because after episode 10, everything just, like you thought hell was breaking loose. After episode 10, hell really breaks loose.
There was so much happening. I couldn't keep up.
So episode 11 is when he gets attacked by the gangster people, the
Yeah.
human trafficking people, because he goes undercover because he, like, has told the human trafficking people that he is Do Soo
Mhm.
and Do Hyun Soo, not Do Soo. Do Soo's the sister. Do Hyun
Mhm.
Soo, and he wants to start getting victims again. So he was
Mhm.
like, "Okay, cool." This is one part when I was first watching this that I was like, "Oh crap." when
Yeah.
the gangster calls the doctor dad.
Mhm.
I'm just like, how is this all how? How does this all get connected? I remember the first time I was just like, "Wait, he's calling the doctor dad? What the heck is going?"
Like, the doctor dad would be involved in this. He just kept
I
getting
know.
worse and worse.
Yeah, and the fact that the doctor dad was like, "Yeah, you can just kill him because my real son's now awake."
But literally, oh my gosh. And he told them that he was working with that Hyunsu was working with the
He
cops.
was wiretapped, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the mission goes to hell, everybody's running away, and then Moo Chae-won comes in as the
Yes.
boss cop as she is.
Yes, yes, she saves her man. And I loved this scene. It was so emotional
Mhm.
because, like he in that moment, that's when he realizes that Jiwon knows that he's Hyunsu. So he's like, "Why didn't you
Yeah,
tell me you knew? Like, I can't believe you've helped me. You've been helping me this whole time." And he apologized for, lying to her and just keeping secrets from her. And eventually at the end of that episode, he finally says like he loves her. But no, and with the realization like that, like, I do love her, not just like just the words, but he's like, I really do love her because he understands that like all this time he already has him saying the words. I was like, oh, this is amazing. But yeah, he was so overwhelmed with emotion when he realized that she knew that who he was all this time. Oh man.
yeah, yeah. Well, and the fact too of like there was a lot of crying in this episode. Yeah. There was a lot of crying from this episode to the end.
I mean the whole show, I don't know if there's an episode that she didn't cry.
Or even he. I mean, well, he
Like, yeah,
to the
but
end.
she like cried like for 80% of the show.
Yes.
Like, anytime they're having, like, any sort of impassioned discussion, she was crying.
And I think I read somewhere from like this episode to the end, someone asked Lee Joon-gi in an interview, like, why did your character cry so much by
Mhm,
the end of the show? Because you went from the beginning of like you showed no emotion
mhm,
to by the end you were crying like every episode, and not just crying,
mhm.
you were like sobbing.
Yeah,
And he was like, it was kind of a conscious decision between myself and director where it was like the guy did not know how to control his emotions. Like, it was just his first
mhm,
time he really was, like, feeling these emotions
mm,
and trying to kind of, like, figure out why. So his reaction was just crying because he didn't
mhm,
understand and couldn't really control them, but he knew he had to express those emotions to, like, get through to Jiwon that,
mhm.
"I do love you, I'm freaking out, but I'm crying because I'm freaking out."
Yeah,
And yeah, so that was like a conscious decision of between Lee Joon-gi and the director of like, "Okay, you have to cry in this scene because you are feeling all of these things and you don't know how to regulate that, and you don't know how
yeah,
to express that through words,
yeah,
so you're gonna be crying." Like,
yeah,
that was the whole thing.
yeah, and I did not mind his crying at all, like,
I
'cause
didn't
I
either,
thought
and I
I
think
thought, like
it made
yeah,
sense. It made
it
sense
made
for his
sense.
character.
Yeah, because over the course of the show, honestly, he's healing and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
walls are coming down, like the walls that have been covering his heart and, him realizing that like, wow, I've been told all my life that I'm this terrible person because I'm my father's son. But
Right.
I'm Hyunsu and I'm my own person and I do have emotions and I can be capable of love and I can show love, I can accept love and the layer is just being peeled back. Like, and then until the end when he's just completely undone because he's like, wow, like I'm finally like who I'm supposed to be.
Mhm,
So I
mhm.
really love that and I appreciated the intentionality behind that. Um but yeah, do you want to cry too much? So opposite for Jiwon.
Yeah. Even in the scene where she comes in and, like, saves him, she, at the same time, is starting to get beaten up in that scene too, and he's, like,
Yeah.
freaking out. So he, like, breaks the closet handle to get out of
Mhm.
because they have him restrained on the closet handle,
Mhm.
and then she immediately is like, "You need to leave. Like,
Yeah.
we are here to arrest you. Like, you need to
Yeah.
leave."
Yeah.
And he's again, refuses to go because he, like, has all these emotions that he needs to figure out and
Yeah.
wants to talk to her and, like, tell her in that moment when Ji-won's like, "No, you need to go. This is not the right
Yes.
moment to do this."
Yes.
Um, alright, episode
Man.
12. So
Okay.
episode
Was
11
screaming.
is I know. Episode 11 at the very end is when her partner comes to, quote, unquote, "arrest" him,
Yes.
and they meet him in their front yard. And so they go
Mhm.
back into the workshop, and essentially he does not arrest him
Mhm.
because he realizes that the guy's probably not who everybody thinks he is.
Yes.
And I was very surprised he did that, honestly, when I first watched it. Because he was so he wasn't by the book in terms of the cop. He was,
Right.
but
He was kind of unhinged, but he was, like, very adamant, like, "You did not do right by
yeah,
this, and I'm gonna, like, make this right because you did not follow the correct procedures." So I thought he was gonna, like, literally haul him off to jail, but
yeah,
he didn't.
exactly. And the fact that they were ready for him to do that too
Mhm.
was like,
Mhm.
okay, you need to face the music. You need to talk this out.
Mhm.
Because when he got suspicious, started getting suspicious a little bit when he was attacked the first time in, like, episode 5 or 6 because they had that interview afterwards, and he just started asking him questions that were not professional
Right.
during
Right.
that. So they already had animosity, and they even pointed it out in that interview, like, Lee Joon-gi was like, "You've always disliked me ever since I've married her. Like,
Yes.
why?"
Yes, he wasn't a fan from the start. I really
Yeah,
liked his character, by the way. Random side
I
note.
did too.
He was really fun to watch. Whenever I see this actor in a show, I feel like he's always so
Yeah,
good. But like he was also really funny too.
yeah,
Like
he was.
before the show got super like crazy. It
That one scene where he, like, attacks his, like, boss, and they're, like, grabbing them by the hair.
was so funny. I loved that scene. Man.
So, they don't arrest the people. This was a scene where he essentially, like, kidnaps her, though, because she
Yeah.
refuses to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think episode 12 was the episode that he kidnaps her. Yeah, 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 it is, because or no, maybe it's episode 13.
Well, you're talking about when you put our knife point?
Yeah.
That's
Is that the
13.
end of episode 12 to
And
13?
it's the end of 13.
Okay. So in episode 12, we get the whole kind of backstory though of his family and
Yeah.
Kim Ji-hoon and the housekeeper. Like that was the whole
Girl,
thing in episode 12.
I was
I want to
screaming.
know your reaction.
I was screaming. First of all, these are the worst parents of all time. Like, y'all enabled your psychopath son, like, to the e like, they kept trying to, like, help him, and I'm like, "You need to get your son put away." Like, I don't understand what y'all are doing. But, yeah, we see a flashback, and the mom finds fingernails that Song has removed from his victims in
Which
his
makes it
room.
even more creepy that he's biting his fingernails in the
Exactly.
episode before.
It's disgusting. So she's obviously horrified and disgusted. And, like, I'm sure
Mhm.
she suspected her son was up to no good because that's why she was snooping in his room in the first place.
Right.
So she goes outside. He's burying a dead body in their yard like it's a normal thing. And he's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
let me just take care of this real quick." And she's like, "What are you doing? What's going on?" And then, like, out of reflex, she just stabs him. She stabs him in the side. And that is how we find out that is how he ends up on life support, which I think that's a gaping plot hole because I don't understand how he ended up on life support from just a stab wound. But
A stab
okay.
wound. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how he ended up on life support. But also, we have the housemaid. So the Bake family, they have this maid, and she doesn't speak. You can just communicate her via sign language, and if she needs to talk to you, she'll write on her notepad. And so the maid, she tries to they basically say, like, "Oh, we hired her because she can't read lips." She can read lips. So she knows
Huh.
everything that's gone on these last few years, and basically got to the point where, Song is awake. The maid is, like, obviously very uncomfortable, and she wants to leave. She's like, "I don't want to I don't wanna be here anymore, I'm leaving, and because the maid knows too much, Heesong basically no, not basically, Heesong kills the maid, and so this is another, like, huge turning point in the story, and basically the parents they help cover it up, and I
Yeah.
was just
What did you think of the scene of him? Because the big reveal in this, other than what happened with the mom, the big
yeah.
reveal on how they shot this was he can actually walk.
Yes, he
He's
literally just
not
yes,
confined to a
yes,
wheelchair, and
yes,
how
and
that
that's
scene was
yes,
shot of him
yes.
standing up.
Yes. I was like,
Brilliant,
"What is
brilliant.
going on?" Because the maid is like, "I'm leaving, I'm getting out of here." He gets up calmly, just marches up to her and kills her. And I was like, "What?"
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, just craziness.
Yeah. I was I was like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, this is really bad. He can walk, oh my god," and how they he
Yeah.
slowly stands up in his,
Yes.
maniac of a face.
I just could not. I was like,
Yeah,
"Wow,
and
this is"
imagine, again, watching this the first time, we had no idea what his character was.
yeah, like none. No idea. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so" yeah. I had no words.
And the only reason why he was burying him in the yard is because his father did not pick up the phone.
Right.
He called his father first, and his father was involved in some medical procedure or whatever,
Yeah.
and he was so la-di-da about it. He was like, "Well, he didn't answer his phone, so I didn't know what to do." It was just like,
He was so scary.
"What?" He
He was
was, yeah,
so scary.
yeah, yeah, and that's the brilliant part of his character and his acting
Yeah.
in general, and this also shows, his mom was true not only the housemaid was scared of him, his mom was so scared of
Yeah.
him, especially
Yeah.
after witnessing that scene in the backyard, and
Mhm.
she's a stay-at-home mom, she had
Mhm.
no way to, get away from him, whereas the
Mhm.
dad was the typical, "I go to work all day." So, she was dealing with this guy as he was growing up as a teenager because, as you said, we got a flashback of him as a kid, um, dropping a brick on a dog.
Yeah.
I think I think it was this episode, maybe I'm
Yeah.
going a
I
little
think we got a
further
little
in
bit
the
more
episode.
context about yeah, about, like, his
Yeah,
teenage years and how he was always like this.
he was always like this, and she didn't know how to handle it. She couldn't.
Mhm.
How do you handle that type of person?
Mhm.
And then and they 'cause they as you said, they didn't put him in therapy, they didn't get him psychoanalyzed, they didn't do anything because they obviously were trying to hide it,
Yep, they just enabled
and
him.
yeah, and that's how Domanzik found him because his son was getting psychoanalyzed because of his mom's death, really, but for
Yeah.
other reasons that has showed up later. But
Right.
I was just I felt so bad for his mom at this point. In episode 12, really, was my start of my turning point because she had some serious issues that she clearly had not worked out herself
Mhm.
from dealing with her son, as well as her husband, as you pointed out earlier.
Yeah.
Just this woman was traumatized everywhere, everywhere,
Yeah.
and couldn't escape
Yeah.
it really.
Right.
Yeah.
She was terrified of him.
Yeah.
Just wow. No words.
But also going back really quickly to I think episode 9 when Moo Chae-won called the psychotherapist and screamed at her over the phone.
Yes, yes. It's just like,
I
why
was like,
didn't you
"Yes."
realize that all he wanted just was to hear his mom's voice? Why didn't you know
Yeah.
that? She's like, I'm gonna defend my man.
Well, that whole reason why he was listening to that tape the entire time was his mom.
Mhm. Yeah, it's his mom's voice.
Yeah, which I would obviously have her reaction too. I was like, the fact that you didn't listen to that, I mean, granted, probably because he freak out if you take it from him, but
Right.
there had to be a way that you could listen to that tape and figure out why he was listening to it.
Play play it for a few seconds and be like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, they didn't do their jobs.
Okay, episode 13. Again, just downhill from here the entire
Yeah.
time. Just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. There's a lot of stuff in episode 13 as well. So we ended episode 12 into 13, where he essentially picks up a knife and puts it to her throat and
Mhm.
forces her to go over to the cameras in his workshop to quote unquote kidnap her. And then
Mhm.
immediately once the cameras were off, he took the knife away and everything.
Mhm. Mhm.
That was one time in my first watch, I was like, "Really? Muche-hwan, you did all this work, you were okay with it, and then you freak out at him putting a knife to your throat again." I'm like, "Do
Yes.
you not know your husband?"
Yeah, and then
Which
yeah, and then
I liked his reaction to that because he was
yes.
like, "We literally worked through this 2 episodes ago."
Exactly, exactly. He was just like, "Why don't you know that I would never hurt you? You should know this by now."
Right.
I was
Yeah.
heartbroken for him in that scene too. He was just like, you know, if it was anybody else, but like, why don't you trust me? Like, if you don't
Right.
trust anyone, you should trust me, man. There's a lot.
Yeah, and again, I mean, superb acting really in that
Mhm.
scene too. And then he tries to go away and she's like, "No, I'm sticking with you
Yeah.
until I can't." And
Yeah.
he was like annoyed at that because he was like, "I don't want to put you in danger." And then of course you're gonna go with me.
Yep. Yep.
And then they go into that hotel and they have a conversation and they find out more. We find out more about his mom in that episode with the conversation in the hotel where he talks a little bit about his mom of like, I really did love her
Mhm.
and about his father. And his father was always looking out a certain window and it was always talking about his mom. And obviously that alluded to the fact that he had buried the mom in the backyard and had killed her because he essentially thought like at least this conversation alluded to the fact that the husband, which I think is one of the reasons why Lee Joon-gi's character took so long to realize his love for his wife, because he immediately all his life was like, "I'm my father, I'm always going to be my father," because
Yeah.
that's what people told him. So when he sees where his father's like, "I thought I loved your mom, but then she betrayed me, and she found out who I was, so I had to kill her." Because she was going to, like, leave us or whatever, and wanted to leave us and wanted to abandon, and so he, of course that was his reaction to Muche-wan. It's like, "I have to stay away from you," and obviously I couldn't because I married you and had a kid, but, like,
Yeah.
that's gonna be our relationship, so I need to hide that side of myself from you.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's just so
I know.
much.
Ye
The other thing The other thing I was gonna say that stuck out to me was Jiwon and Hyunsoo tell Heesung's dad that they know he was trying to get him killed, like rat him out to like those human traffickers. And he was like, "Yeah, so we know that you have to be the accomplice. Like there's no other
Right.
there's no other person it could be." And then the mom was like, "No, it's not him, it's me." And it's like, "Okay, girl." It's not, but I was like, "This is how is this gonna end?" I was like, "I don't know what's gonna happen."
Right, right. Because they still don't know that he's awake.
Mhm.
I mean, Muche-wan doesn't even know he exists, really.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
and Lee Joon-gi doesn't know he's awake. So,
Exactly.
and then you have Hee-sung, the actual Hee-sung, like, walking around in the dark, being his own creepy self, doing stuff.
So creepy.
Eventually, in the hotel, he handcuffs her to the table and
Mhm.
leaves her there. And
Mhm.
then he runs off because he knows that she can't be with him for the rest of the show. He has
Mhm.
to, even though she doesn't want him to, he has to go off and find this guy himself and deal it with it himself
Mhm.
to avoid putting her in danger. She gets loose and they try to hunt him down again, but then this is when we find out about the car camera.
Yep.
So all this time, the cops are trying to find Do Hyun-soo and think he's going to be the person. Then the other cop finds out that he is Do Hyun-soo, and it's obviously not this guy because they time tracked him and figured out he couldn't have been in two places at once. So
Mhm.
they pull up the car camera again because they get a security camera off the car camera, and they're trying to find the guy's face. And they're watching this, and they're like, how is this guy not knowing to avoid the cameras? Like,
Right.
how is he doing that? Like, why is he doing that? And they slowly come to the realization that it is the guy who's been in a coma for 15 years.
Yes.
I thought that was
Yes.
brilliant too when they revealed that the first time. It was like, it's just like that little thinking of like, they didn't obviously exist 15 years ago. So he wouldn't know to avoid the cameras in cars.
Such good storytelling. So good. So good.
So he has become obsessed, the real Bakyun's son, the real guy who's been in the coma,
Yes.
now is obsessed with Do Soon. Now is
Mhm.
obsessed with Lee Joon-gi because he was like,
Mhm.
why did this guy take over my life? He's living
Mhm.
the life I should have lived.
Mhm.
And so now he wants to know more about him,
Right.
specifically about his wife,
Yes.
about Mucho.
Yes.
And then we get the end of episode 13, which was heartbreaking.
Yes. But then also, like, major bombshell, we find out that Misuk is alive, the taxi
Mhm.
driver's wife, that he was trying to find her body. Everyone assumed that she was dead. She's alive. She's locked up,
Yeah.
mixed up with, like, the human traffickers, but she is alive. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." Ah! So it's just a lot happening.
So we have Do Hyun's sister meets
Mhm.
up with Moo Chae-won with the daughter, meets her niece for the first time ever,
Mhm.
and obviously not introducing to her as
Right.
my niece or like aunt or whatever. And Moo Chae-won has to run off and go and investigate this guy that they just found out is actually not in a coma. So she
Mhm.
offers to take the kid home
Mhm.
and watch her for the 1 or 2 days.
Mhm.
And we, of course, have the scene that happens in the end of the episode where um, basically our actual coma serial killer guy is in the house. And
Yes.
because he gets angry and wants to, he basically has decided to kill the wife of Lee Joon-gi, Moo Chae-won,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
he wants to get rid of the one thing that obviously is keeping him rooted to this life of non-serial killer lifestyle. He thinks if he
Right.
gets rid of the wife, he will become the serial killer that his dad always wanted him to be.
Yes.
And he walks in, and I honestly don't think if he had known that she was the sister, he obviously would not have done this because one, it wasn't his wife, but
Mhm.
two, he kind of like worshiped the kids of Domansuk,
Yeah.
of the serial killer. Like he
Yeah.
would never have touched them, really.
Mhm.
Um, it's very clear he has no idea what his wife looks like. And
Mhm.
the only reason he tries to kill the sister is because the sister is wearing the cop badge
Yes.
of the wife's.
Yeah.
The sister who's in the house realizes somebody is in the house
Mhm.
and puts the daughter in her room and tells her
Yeah.
to lock the door and don't open the
Mhm.
door unless your mom is at the door.
Yeah.
And she walks out and basically pretends to be Moo Chae-won to
Yeah.
protect the daughter.
Yeah.
And it just comes to the realization that like I'm going to die in this situation
Mhm.
and accepts that because she's like, I'm somehow in her mind, it's like, I'm protecting the life that I want my brother to have. And like
Yes.
throughout the drama, you know that like that is her personality.
Mhm.
She kind of wants to protect her brother because her brother protected her for 20 something
Yes.
years. So she
Yes.
wants to protect him
Mhm.
and keep his life that he's built intact
Mhm.
as much as possible. So she's like, I'm going to die so he can keep that intact.
Yeah.
And the whole serial killer is just like trying to confirm her identity, does due to the badge, and obviously
Right.
stabs her and
Yes.
then runs away.
Yes. And that's how the episode ends. And I also feel like
Yes.
she was also the same way that Hyunsu sacrificed himself for her. Like she wanted to do the same for him, and she didn't get that opportunity. So she's like, "This is
Yeah.
how I can like repay my brother for what he did for me."
Uh-huh.
So yeah. Also, huge bombshell. in this episode. So we get a flashback for Hee-sung and Do-min-suk, and basically they're in the woods. Hee-sung has Mi-suk tied to a tree. Do-min-suk is like, "You messed this all up. There's a witness. You need to get rid of her." He's like, "You need to, basically kill her, and you need to turn yourself in. So just say that you kidnapped her. She ran and fell off a cliff. You'll get out of jail in a few years." But he's like, "You need to get rid of her because you messed this all up. Like, there's witnesses. There's too many eyes." And so
Yeah.
Hee-sung was like, he's like, "Well, why can't we blame it on Hyunsu?" Do-min-suk pretended like he was gonna stab him, and it was like, "You don't get to say my children's names. Like, nope, my children are off
Yep.
limits. That's what you're not gonna do." And then he turns around, gets a boulder, and kills Do-min-suk. Major bombshell. Do-min-suk did not commit suicide, as we were told in the beginning of the show. He was murdered by
Yeah.
Hee-sung. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah. And I remember the first time I watched this, I was like, okay, it is very clear. Either they never investigated that guy's death because
Mm-hmm.
there's no way that would have been
Say that's not a suicide. His head is bashed in.
exactly. And even if they had investigated, that would not be a suicide. That would like
Mm-hmm.
maybe like an accidental death if he fell and
Mm-hmm.
hit his head on a rock or something.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But like obviously the amount of times that he was hit over the head with the rock, it was like obviously it wouldn't have been suicide or even accidental death because you can't hit your head on
Exactly.
the rock twice, you know?
Exactly.
But yeah, that was definitely a huge thing because again, it's like he realized. I think that was a couple things of why he killed him. One is he realized he was never going to be the son. He wanted to be the son
Mm-hmm.
in a way, but he was never going to be it. Two, he didn't like being told off. He got angry because the serial killer father he asked him to be arrested and and take the fall and be in there
Mm-hmm.
for how many years or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
he realized that we didn't have that same relationship he thought they had, or I'm going to be without I like killing now. I can't stop killing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm going to be in prison for the rest of my life.
Yep.
And I can't get that taken away at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So multiple reasons why he probably did it. That was my
Yeah.
theory.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we get to the penultimate episode
Yes.
15,
Yes.
where it just again keeps getting crazier and crazier.
Yeah. This was an insane episode. I think something that I found really interesting was we finally see Moojin's video. So that video that was hinted at in the beginning of the show, that we didn't get to see anything that was in the video. We finally see
Right.
the video in this episode, and basically he had snuck into Do-min-suk's lair where he did his killing and everything. And when he was there was a person in a bag struggling to like get
Mm.
out. He was, an upcoming victim, and he didn't know Do-min-suk was there. So Do-min-suk pops out of nowhere and it's just like, "Oh, Mujin, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here." And he's just like, "There's just a deer in that bag, nothing to worry about." Like, he knows that there's not a deer in that bag, but he's carried
Right.
that with him. And oh man, it was interesting because there was a callback to that scene when Moojin was talking to Hee-sung's dad and was just like, "Well, it was just like, my son could have like had a better life." And da 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 da. It's just like, no, like if Hyun-soo like saw that body in the bag, like his reaction would have been different than your son's. Like, your son was always like that. There's nothing that turned your son into that. Your son was always that from the beginning. So yeah, I thought that was really good because it's like I think the parents just had this like delusional mindset that, "Oh, he turned into that and Do-min-suk ruined our son." No, your son was always like that. Even as a child, he was like that. Um, I was like, wow, okay, mystery solved with the video. Also very traumatic, and I felt bad for Moojin that he had, to
Right.
see like someone that was about to get murdered and like kind of just carry that secret with him forever.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
terrible.
And then going back to the parents too, you really saw this is the part that I wasn't expecting this the first time. So I was surprised, but also it made me like the wife from episode
Mhm.
15 on because
Mhm.
basically now you have so at the beginning of the episode, the sister gets stabbed and is dying, and the reporter finds her luckily and calls it in. And so you have Moo Chae-won rushing to her house after she gets a call from the cop who responded, and it was like, they need you there because your daughter won't come out. And so she arrives and realizes that this guy who they now are trying to find has found out about her and her family and her husband and tried to kill her and not necessarily her daughter, but like her in general. Because we find out episode 15, like for some reason, which makes sense, it does, but the coma guy, Kim Ji-hoon, was like, I don't kill kids.
Right, I was like, well, that's where you draw the line.
Yeah, yeah, which that does have some realism to him. I'm not gonna get into psychology of serial killers,
Right,
but
right,
there
right,
is
right. But
some
it's just weird.
realism
It's
to
just like
that.
the things that he's like, oh, I won't touch Domin Suck's kids, but anyone else is fair game. Oh, then no kids. Like it's like I just oh my gosh.
So that was like a heartbreaking scene because like she had to egg her daughter out of her bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Her daughter like wasn't crying until that moment when she
Yeah, she's
opened the
so
door.
brave.
It's so brave, it's so well acted.
Yes.
And then obviously the sister isn't dead yet, but she's on life support in the
Mm-hmm.
hospital. And so they now who know who they're looking for. They're looking for the doctor's real son, and then obviously EJ, oh my god.
He's
Lee
Jungi.
Joon-gi's. I don't know why I kept saying EJ Hoon. I think I said that in another podcast episode a couple episodes ago that I mixed them up again. Anyway,
Jae-hoon.
Iju, yeah, Lee Joon-gi's. They're looking for him and they're looking for Kim Ji-hoon. And they go to the doctor's house, and the father, who you would assume would be the one to take charge and kind of be the one that doing all the talking in the interview,
Mm-hmm.
is completely comatose at that point. And the
Yeah.
wife, on the other hand, is the one who's answering all the questions and like being strong and facing the music and like dealing with all the crap that they now have essentially her husband has created.
Yeah.
Um and after that scene, I was just like, I have to respect that. Like that was an unanticipated character switch and just shows how strong of a woman she is by having to deal with everything because her husband, who really is essentially the catalyst of all of it, has decided to revert to going into his own reality to deal with it
Yes. Yes.
and not being able to cope, which,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, was not expected at all.
Nope. Not at all.
No, because essentially the reporter comes into the house and kind of just lays it all out. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, it's going to come out. You're going to know everything. Your secret's all going to come out.
Right.
And because he's mad about the sister getting stabbed. Like, he goes from saving the sister to the house and is just like, I'm mad. This is what's going to happen because
Yeah.
all your secrets are being revealed. And the husband tries to save it. The doctor husband tries to save it all and quote unquote thinks he can kill the reporter and obviously chickens out and then just
Mm-hmm.
collapses. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, I can't deal with this, and then goes in his own reality while the wife is
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we're going to
Forced
pick
to
up the
deal with
pieces.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, has to deal with that. Yeah. And it was kind of revealed in this episode of why the doctor father did it, like helped him and hid
Mm-hmm.
everything
Mm-hmm.
because he felt guilty. He felt guilty for always not being at home. He
Yep.
felt guilty because, as you were talking, like the parents were adamant that if he had never met the serial killer, he
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have been that way.
Right.
And so he thought by cleaning up his son's messes, eventually he would stop killing people and he would
Right.
stop being violent. And even after when he woke up and killed the housekeeper, the father freaked out, not because he killed him, but because he was like, you promised me this would not happen again. You promised
Exactly.
me that you would not revert back to this. because he's
Mhm.
still in his mind was like, okay, the dad's serial killer is gone. He's not going to be a
Yes.
killer anymore because he
Exactly.
did it. He helped him.
Exactly. I rehabilitated him, I
Yeah.
fixed him, and it's like, "No, he's a
Yeah.
psychopath, and he's a murderer.
Right.
He's gonna keep killing."
Then we get the whole showdown at the end of
Mhm.
episode 15.
Yeah.
Well, really not the end. It's like a showdown from like, I don't know, half of the episode to the
Yeah,
end.
the middle on. It was really stressful because, like, Hyunsu so if they found Misuk, she's like I said before, she was with the human traffickers or, like, she's, like, in a cage, basically, and
Mhm.
yeah, Hyunsu comes. Well, actually, no. Heesung comes first, and he's just like, "Oh, like I'm gonna kill you," kind of thing. And then, Hyunsu comes, and he's like, tells Misuki, "You don't have to worry about anything. Like, I'm gonna help you." And so basically, Hyunsu ends up being able to trap Heesung, and it was so basically because Heesung believes that he killed Jiwon to, like, throw Hyunsu off, he tells him, like, "Oh, yeah, I killed your wife." So this just,
Right.
like, completely, like, he goes off the rails, and he's, like, fully about to kill Heesung. And meanwhile, Misuk is, like, in the cell, and she basically holds back Hyunsu so, Heesung can get away. Can you explain to me why she did that? Because I was like, "Why did you do that?" Because is it because she was like, "Oh, I don't want you to murder him because you're
Yeah.
not a murderer?" But I was
Yeah.
like, I mean, I'm not for killing, but, like, he was gonna kill you, and then Hyunsu came to save you and trap Heesung. So, like, why would you let Heesung run away? I don't get it.
I think you hit the nail on the head. She did not
Yeah.
wanna see because Lee Joon-gi got there first and was like,
Mhm.
"I'm gonna help you. I'm
Mhm.
not here to hurt you," whatever.
Mhm.
She remembered Hee-sun, she remembered Kim Ji-hoon's character, so she knew he was
Yeah.
a killer. Like, she
Yeah.
knew he was not able to be helped, really.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, she essentially held him back to not make him become the guy that she was running away from him, because she met
Yeah.
his father. She knew who he was
Yeah.
and had already obviously met Kim Ji-hoon and how horrible of a person, like, she was in a mental facility because she couldn't
Right.
deal. So,
Right.
she was remembering all this stuff and realizing that, like, who Kim Ji-hoon actually was and was like, "Okay, he wasn't involved.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna stop you from doing this as much as I can because I know you don't wanna be this person."
Yeah. Totally. And I respect her for it, but I was at the same time I was like, "Why did you get away?" My gosh. Like, Heesung goes, like, running, and it's just they get into a huge fight, and and then, Hyunsu tries to kill him. They're literally, like, at the edge of a cliff at this point. Like, they're running and fighting until they reach, like, the end of this cliff.
What did you think of the fact that Heesun actually looked scared
I was
in that?
really
That was
shocked.
surprising for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just like, "Oh, you're a little coward." Like, you try to act like you're all
Yeah.
scary and this scary serial killer, but the way that he folded so fast at the instant of any sort of, like, aggression, he was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." Like, yeah, like, he would back down so quickly, and I was just like, "Why are you such a wimp all of a sudden? Like, what happened to you being this big bad killer?" I thought that was very interesting how fast he switched. So he's, like, literally crying for his life, like, "Oh, don't kill me, you don't." I was like, "Okay, like, this is a huge, huge turn." But yeah,
Mhm.
Hyunsu literally has him at the edge of the cliff, like, fully prepared to stab him, and in the nick of time, Jiwon comes, the whole police crew, and she's like, "Don't do it." And the minute he hears her voice, he's just overcome with emotion. Oh my gosh, I love this scene. He's overcome with emotion because he's like, "He told me that you were dead. I thought you were dead." Like, he's just so overcome. He's just like, "Oh my gosh, it's really you." Oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. And then he runs to her. And then, of course, Heesung gets a gun. And then, he shoots Hyunsu. And then, but at the same time, Baby Boy Cop shoots and kills Heesung. So,
Mhm.
there was a lot going on. It was
Yeah.
chaotic. But Baby Boy Cop got that was his moment of redemption because he was able to fire the shot. But yeah, I was like, this is a lot going on. Because at the end of the episode, you just see you have dead Hee Sung and you have like, unconscious Hyun Soo that has been freshly shot. And I was just like,
In the
well,
head.
what's gonna happen now? In the
In the
head.
head.
It's like, well, what now?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That was very stressful episode, very stressful scene. I
Yes.
was not expecting him getting shot.
Me neither, because like Baby Boy Cop shot Hee Sung, and I'm like, everything's right in the world. And then we turn, and then
Yeah.
Hyun Soo's just unconscious with a bleeding head. And I'm like, no, he's been through too much already. Everyone has been through too much already.
Right, right.
Oh my gosh. Very stressful.
And then the last episode. What did you think of the last episode of Flower of Evil?
Girl, this is what caused me to go from a 10 to a 9.5. Because why did Hyun Soo have to get amnesia?
Same as me. Okay, on the first watch, I was so pissed. After I talked about this in certain podcast episodes and stuff, I kind of understood why they took this route. So it
Yeah.
doesn't bother me as much after rewatching it.
Yeah.
But first watch, I was like, really? Really? Because it wasn't full blown amnesia. It was
Right, right.
only his relationship with his wife,
Right, which didn't
like
make
those
sense.
years.
It's like just the years you were married to your wife. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I was just so annoyed. And I was like, it's 2020. Like at this time this drama came out. Like, I think amnesia in 2005 is fine. Why are we still doing this? I don't understand. I was like, and like, but then like after I thought about it for a little bit more, I was like, okay. I was like, I mean, I guess like what were they gonna do in the last episode? I guess they had to have something to fill the time because I mean everything's done. Hee Sung's dead. Everyone is where they're supposed to be. So I guess they tried to come up with something to do, but I was like, amnesia is just the laziest thing to do. Like I was really disappointed that this was the route that they took. I mean, it was beautiful when they finally found their way back to each other, but I was like, there had to be a better way to do this.
Yeah, I think so. My thing of what other people have said, but also I've come to kind of agree with, is like if they had not done the amnesia,
Mhm.
they would have still had to deal with everything that had just happened for the last 15 episodes. And they never
Yeah.
really talked that out, really. So they would have had to talk that out, which would have that been healthy? Absolutely.
Yes. Talk it out, go to therapy, work through the
Right,
trauma of the
right.
last few months.
So at the same time, though, kind of giving amnesia is like giving them a fresh start of like
Yes.
just getting to learn them again, like learn themselves as a couple, as a family, not having the guilt of everything that just happened or whatever going on, which I kind of got that after rewatching it multiple times. And I
Yeah.
have learned to like that route
Yeah.
and understand that a little more. But yes, I definitely had your same reaction the first time I watched this because I was like, I love amnesia. I love
Yeah.
amnesia as a trope. I will always love it. But this was one of the few times that I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah, especially for a drama that was just so smartly written and every single thing was so intentional. For them to just throw the amnesia trope in an episode 16, I was like, that's the best y'all could come up with. Everything else about the show was so intentional and sleek and smart and clever. Than amnesia. So it just felt like it didn't belong. But I do like your take in that, this was their chance to have a fresh start. I like that, and that is I will take that and I will allow that to help me come to terms with the amnesia.
Right. I totally understand. I 100% had your same reaction. I totally understand where you're coming from. But yeah, it definitely is like the amnesia will lead to redemption and like healing
Yes.
and that type of stuff, which we kind of
Yes.
saw throughout the drama anyway.
Yes.
But this was like the ultimate healing because they don't remember it.
Yeah, exactly. Just clean slate. And then I think I really liked what Jesus said. I don't remember who she was talking to. I don't know if she was talking to Mujin or the wife, but basically saying how like I think the way he is now is who he was always meant to be
Mhm.
without the trauma of our childhood. And now his true self is coming out, and I thought that was really nice. That when everything else was removed from his mind, he was able to be the person that he was always supposed to be. So yeah, and kind of going along with what you were saying about this gives him a clean slate. Again, there's other yeah. Anyways, I can go on, but I will take that, and that'll give me the peace I need about the ending.
I went into my old notes because I actually found my
Mhm.
old notes of when I first reviewed this for the first time for a podcast. And I
Yeah.
had 2 notes in here. One is I noticed in this episode, particularly the last episode, they had a lot of shots of hands where it was
Uh,
like playing with the ring, like not knowing
yes.
why he still had his ring on, or like
Yes.
when he picked up the journal and was reading through it, or even like the hug with his daughter, they specifically showed her hands on his back.
Mhm.
And so I loved that and the concentration of the hands because it was like, in my mind, it was like reminders and reaching out to each other and like expressing certain emotions by just like touching the ring or like taking the ring off or like
Yes.
injury of his hands because he took his ring off and he didn't know why he kept injuring his hands after that and
Right.
that type of thing. So that was one thing that I did. I also love how he kind of remembered but didn't remember, where he was like
Mhm.
reading the title of his workshop. Also, the whole
Mhm.
setup of him like not realizing what he was going to see and what he was buying until they got there.
Yes. Yes.
um, yeah, I thought that was really sweet. But the whole
Yes.
reasoning, because we didn't know the reasoning behind the name of his workshop until the end,
Right.
which was I thought was a perfect explanation of like made up their relationship and everything.
Totally
Again,
agree.
like a thread that you like never really thought, like a detail you never really thought was great until they explained it. Which
Exactly.
if nobody has watched this, it's like it's the name is a connection to a Greek mythology of not going to remember the god's name, but he basically is a smith in hell in a fiery place and he's appearance wise very ugly. And so he
Mhm.
stays in his workshop all day and he has a wife who is very pretty and
Yeah.
kind of is his rock, is his person.
Mhm.
He like never understands why she loves him so much, but
Mhm.
she is his home. And that's essentially Lee Joon-gi's relationship with Moo Chae-won's character from
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
perspective, not necessarily her perspective, but
Right.
his perspective. So he named the workshop whatever her name is, the goddess's name,
Yeah.
place to rest or something like that. I can't remember
Yeah.
the actual name.
Yeah.
So I love that reveal because it was just great because it encompasses their entire relationship.
It's a great little detail. Again, like why the ending was annoying because it's like there's so many great details and things they did. I just don't understand. I just don't get it. One day I'll come to terms with it. It's still fresh. I just finished it today. So it's like it's
I totally get your feeling because that was my exact reaction.
I was like, "No, they did not. No, they didn't." I had to like rewind and just to make sure. I was like, "They didn't do this. Like, there's no way." I was like, "They did."
Yep, they did. They absolutely did. All right, so that is the end of our discussion of Flower of Evil. Do you have anything else you want to talk about or call out or anything like that?
I don't think so. I feel like we touched on everything.
Mhm,
Well, there
mhm.
was something I did wanna say. I wanna know what you thought about this. So, we
Okay.
both love Kim Ji-hoon. I
Yes,
enjoy him. I think he's a great actor.
yes.
There are some things I don't know, there are some things about his performance
The
in this
crazy
drama I
eyes.
didn't think were great. Yeah, the crazy eyes, I was like, "That's not don't do that. Stop doing it." And he kept doing it, and I was like, "Mm-mm, I don't like it." Not because it's creepy, it's obviously creepy, but it was just he
It
almost
was cheesy.
felt yes, it felt cheesy, it
Mhm.
felt
It was over the top.
cartoony at times. I was like, "You're doing too much." And so there's some aspects of his performance that made me cringe a lot because I was like, "Ooh, you're doing a bit too much. Like, you're trying too hard to be
Right.
creepy."
And I get that, that's definitely understandable. I think I just got used to it,
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely some scenes where, yeah, I think especially his crazy eyes and not only just the crazy eyes, I think what bothered me more was for lack of a better way to describe this, because I don't really know how to describe this facial expression. Like he
Mhm.
looked high sometimes, like
Yes.
just completely
Yes.
drugged out, which
Yes. Like, his mouth would be,
it
like,
did,
just held open, and his
yeah,
eyes would just be
yeah,
wide, and I'm like, "But why is your resting face like that? Why do you look like"
right, right. Yeah. No, I agree. There was definitely some scenes that he did a little too much. Yeah.
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 So I just had to get that off my chest. Love him,
Yeah.
though, he's great. But
Yeah, and I
yeah.
had only before this drama, without knowing who he was gonna be and, like, what he was gonna do, before this drama, I had only seen him in a romance drama a
Mhm.
really long time ago before this.
Yeah.
Because before this drama, he had not done a drama in, like, 3 years, 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
And before that, he had only done, like, romance and
Mhm.
weekenders. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I had never seen him in this type of role ever, ever. So that was like a huge switch up when I
Yeah.
watched him in this. Yeah,
Yeah, I've only seen my first Kim Ji Hoon drama was Love to Hate You, which was, like, what, like,
of
2, 3
course.
years
Yeah,
ago? And then
yeah.
I saw him in this really disturbing movie that I literally regret watching called Ballerina, which is on
I have yet to
Netflix.
watch that one.
Yeah, it was not for me, but
Yeah,
that's when I
yeah,
knew oh, yeah, and then also he was in Death's Game as well. Fantastic job. He was so good at that
yeah.
show. So I knew he could do the crazy really well, but he's come a
Right.
long way. Like, I think he's
Yeah,
crazy in Flower of Evil versus his crazy in Death's Game. Death's Game, fantastic. Really good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I will agree. There were some scenes where he did go a little overboard, but after 4 times watching it, I still enjoy his performance, so
Yeah.
it
Like
doesn't
like when
really
he would
bother me.
I get it. Like when he would do like the slow turn of his head and like the crazy
Yeah,
eyes, I was like, did something just
yeah.
inhabit you? What's happening? Oh my gosh. But yeah, I think that was odd. Yeah, because we talked about like the trauma and the role of trauma and like the love and like the relationship and everything like that. So I think
Mhm.
that was it. But yeah, great drama. I loved it. Thank you so much for giving me a reason to finally finish it. And yeah, I'm so happy.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it, because I was honestly a little worried you wouldn't. I knew you'd like the couples part of it, and I knew
Y-
you'd like that, and so I was, like, hopeful that that would help you intro into the crime genre, because it's not straight up serial killing and cops
Yeah.
investigating it,
Yeah.
but I was like, "Is she gonna like that part enough to enjoy the killing part of it at the same time?"
Well, as you know, I love Law& and Order SVU, so I don't
True.
mind murder and all that stuff. But no, like, I loved it, like, I was locked in from episode 1 to episode 16, like, I
Nice.
was, like, invested. So, yes, absolutely loved it.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, thank you for coming on the episode. I'm so glad we got to talk about this drama.
Me
I'm so
too.
glad you finally got to watch it. And thank you to anybody who's listening. I almost said watching, listening to this episode. And if you have seen Flower of Evil, please let us know your thoughts. DM us, comment, whatever you want. Naz, where could they find you? Because you, of course, have your own podcast that is wonderful, and I want more people to listen to it. So, where can they find you?
Yes, so my podcast is called the Swoon Diaries Podcast, where you can listen to anywhere you listen to podcasts, and also I am on Instagram at Swoon Diaries Pod. So come send me a message and say hello.
Yes, and you'll find all of that in the description as well. Thanks again for listening to a Flower of Evil review. Thank you, Naz, for being on this episode,
Of
and
course.
bye, everybody.
Bye.
If you want to continue the conversations about dramas that were started in this episode, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky under the username No Sleep for Dramas. That is No Sleep, the number 4 dramas, just like in the title of the podcast. This podcast is also an expansion of my blog, so you can visit my blog at www.nosleepfordramas.com, the number 4 dramas.com, and find multiple years of blog posts already available at your fingertips. All links are in the description of this episode. Finally, please give this podcast a like or a follow wherever you listen to the podcast. leaving a comment or a review also helps a lot. We love hearing ideas and feedback from all of you. Share the podcast with your friends as well. Thank you for listening. This has been an episode of the No Sleep for Dramas podcast, and I am your host, Caitlin. I will see you here next time, and I hope you get no sleep chasing the next episode just like me. Good night.